Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Murder Church on a Sunday morning. Good morning, good morning. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. Episode 47 of the Phil Spector murder trial. Let's get into it here a little bit. And yeah, as soon as we get in here, I got a few things to go over. Hit the like, share it out on X, all the things. Let's rock.
Let's rock.
Good morning, everybody. What's up, everybody? Hold on, let me start out real fresh with the bells. The church bells are ringing, and I'm still trying to wake up. I didn't go to bed till like 2 in the morning. Welcome in here, everybody. Let's see who's in here right now. BGOG, Adam Drives Helen, welcome in here. What's up? Yeah, but it probably is early in Oregon right now. Dizzy, what's up? Taryn Dusty, what's up? Sheila coming in. We got some people coming in from Ireland. Love it, love it, love it. Morning, everybody. Jerry Wayne in the house. Sinead, also Ireland. Get a lot of love from Ireland, and I got a lot of merch floating around Ireland also now, which is dope. So today we got a couple of things to go over. We're going into part 4 of Dr. Vincent DeMaio's testimony. He's going to get cross-examined by the prosecution. Should be interesting. I think it's Alan Jackson that does it as well from the Kieran Reed case. We're going to be going just a little bit shorter today. I'm going to try to go to about 11, maybe even to 11:30. We'll see how the videos play out. But today, actually, is this working? I want to make sure this is working. Hold on. Okay, cool. One thing that is happening today at 1 o'clock, I'm going to be over on Mo in the Deep End's stream. She's doing a roast of the Susan Smith parole hearing, and has been awesome enough to invite me over, invite Publicly Buzzed and the Buzz Nation, so hopefully everybody will come over and chill in the chat. And yeah, we'll have a good one, man. Mo in the Deep End is one of my new favorite channels. She's awesome as hell, super down to earth. I like the way she covers the cases. She's incredibly honest with her opinion. And yeah, I think that's the best way to handle a lot of this stuff. So yeah, 1 p.m. Eastern time today, I'll be over there. And yeah, I'm going to stop about 11:30 so I can really have some time to get something to eat. That's usually what I do after Murder Church. And get ready for it. But yeah, welcome in here, everybody. And also, 4 o'clock today, 4 p.m. Eastern time, over on the Wrestle Plunge channel, my second channel, my wrestling channel. I have another video dropping, so hopefully people will check that out as well. And even if you don't like wrestling, show it a little love from the Buzz Nation and get it going into the old algorithm. Hopefully we can get her cranked up and rocking and rolling. Yeah, we're about to jump in here. We're not going to waste any more time. We do have a wheel going. This new wheel will be for the Holy Trinity, the trifecta. We're going to be giving away some stickers. I've got the Meowder Church sticker, of course, the classic Publicly Buzzed pink, white, yellow logo, and of course the beautiful and very popular Murder Church logo. The trifecta will be going out, the Holy Trinity, if you will. Now, let me just look in here real quick to make sure that I've got my ducks in a row and know exactly where I'm at. We had a winner of a t-shirt on Friday night. We had Miss Shorty in here Friday, fucking awesome. Lisa's dope as hell. Yeah, Jesse Charles won a t-shirt. So if anyone sees Jesse Charles in the chat, let them know to get at me, publiclybuzzed@gmail.com, or if they follow me on X, send me a message, and I just need their size, of course, where to send it, and we can go from there. Oh yeah, we've already got a new wheel rocking and rolling. 2, 3, 4, 5 already on the new wheel. Friday night was awesome. Friday night was really fun. It was good. It was super cool. Yeah, and Adam Drives Helen was a new person that we've met through Miss Shorty's channel, so hell yeah. All right, guys, let's get in here. Let's rock it and roll. And I believe Alan Drives Helen has got some stuff rocking too. I think they have they stream on YouTube and Kick.com if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, good stuff, man. And oh shit, start now right here to get on the wheel for the possibility of getting these stickers right here. Adam Drives Helen, blessings with a $4.99. Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate that. Get you on here so I do not forget. Starting it out hot. That's how we do it here in the Murder Church, baby. I like to see it. Hell yeah. right, we're gonna do it right now. Start her up, and yeah, I might have to go get some coffee, and yeah, but we're gonna get in here. Let's get her flowing, anyways, if you will, huh? Let's get over here real quick. Get this run again. Part 4. I think Dr. Vincent DeMaio's up here for quite some time, and again, this is part like 122 of like 230. So we've just crossed over the halfway point in this trial. We're going to be going into 2025 with this thing, and the Phil Spector murder trial has been quite the task so far for Murder Church. Season 4 of Murder Church. Let's go. Hold on, let me get the sound in here also. Thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Dr. DeMaio, I want to go through three areas and then finish up with you here.
And just real quick, Dr. DeMaio is, his opinion is that Alana Clarkson killed herself that night, and it was not Phil Spector that pulled the trigger. I've, my new favorite word from the true crime community, I've opined on that many times, and I like to give, credence to the possibility of it, right? We've discussed that in here, and I want everyone in the chat to do the same. I want you to give your opinions on what you think the possibility is. So if you're new in here, this has been a wild one. So Phil Spector has a history, multiple, 4 or 5 different women at the beginning of this trial have all come forth with very similar circumstances and situations that Lana Clarkson found herself in that night. When these women want to leave after the evening is winding down and they don't want to sleep with Phil Spector, he brings out a gun. And then after that, he threatens them with the gun and even will put the gun in their mouth, which again, we know how Lana Clarkson died with a gunshot blast through the mouth and severed her spine. And she succumbed to those injuries. So you got to add it up and 2 plus 2 usually equals 4. That's kind of where I'm at on the thing too. But again, I'm not against... I like Dr. DeMaio, honestly. I think that he put together a pretty good argument. I think there's little telltale signs in there for me personally when I'm looking for someone, maybe stretching the truth a little bit for their own gratification. He's a defense witness that I'm sure is being paid very well, especially in this high-profile Phil Spector Hollywood trial. So at the end of the day, I think I know where I'm still sitting on this, but I'm very interested in what he's got to say.
Before we broke, we were trying to show you a demonstration of a gunshot and how gunshot particles and so forth are emitted from a gun. I want to play this, and this would be the exhibit next in order now. We've got the correct.
Next would be eye, septuplet eye.
Thank you. You could take a look at this, Doctor, when it's playing and explain to the jury what is this. First is the picture of a weapon, the gun. Does this demonstration show how the gunshot material is emitted from a revolver, such as a .38 caliber revolver involved in this case?
Yes, the particles, the bulk of the particles come out the muzzle end, and then they also come out the cylinder gap area over here, and those go with the cloud of gas and flow backwards this way. And the particles from the front can go up to
there we go. Boom. Making that thing work, baby. Sinead, thank you very much.
To the
249.
side go about 24, 25 feet. And the particles going towards the back go about...
Did you take any of my merch to Finland? Have we been to Finland?
On experiments.
Okay, and even though in this particular
thank you so
demonstration
much,
these are visible, are they really visible to the naked eye?
Oh, no, you can't see them. They're like, most of them are like 1 to 5 millionths of a meter, or 1,000th of a millimeter.
Okay. All right, so this is for demonstrative purposes only. This is not something that somebody would actually see if they saw somebody firing a weapon.
Yeah, absolutely, you cannot see this.
And this is not meant to show the blast effect of the explosion that occurs outside of the barrel, correct?
Right. These are just showing the particles of gunshot residue that emerge from the weapon.
Okay. Now I want to move to the area of toxicology, and we talked about the levels that were in Ms. Clarkson as far as alcohol was concerned, and you said that a .12 was the more accurate of the 2 readings that were done. And my question is that For a person to get to a .12 level, approximately how much would that person have to drink? And assume for purposes of this question that that her weight as described in the autopsy was correct. In other words, I believe they weighed her at approximately 160 pounds, is that correct?
So I think 161 pounds.
Okay. So what type of drinking would get somebody to that level?
At that weight and at that blood level, she had in her bloodstream the equivalent of 5 or 6 ounces of whiskey or 5 or 6 beers. You know, if she had been drinking for 2 hours, she would have had, steadily, she would have had at least 2 more. Essentially, the rule of thumb is you burn a beer.
You know, taking the alcohol into account, we know for sure, I would imagine, especially what we've learned about Phil Spector, he loves some booze, so I'd imagine that he's highly intoxicated. And from what there's to saying about the toxicology of Lana Clarkson, she sounds like she was also inebriated and probably extremely wasted that night. So you think about the chaos of the moment, you know, maybe some of the other instances with Phil Spector when he's bringing out the gun and he's threatening these women and, you know, again, putting a gun in someone's mouth or face and, you know, scaring the life out of them. Like we saw the witnesses before, and you know these were people that were close to Phil Spector, an assistant, and so forth, and people that got a little too close that was at a party, and he asked them to stay, whatever. Lana Clarkson, again, would have been very drunk. So in the moment, you know, you bring a gun out on somebody in this instance, right? That's probably not going to go too well. So there could have been a struggle. You know, again, one person has the gun and the other doesn't, but you have somebody that's really drunk and, you know, maybe acting a little bit wild or crazy, you know, especially in that moment when you have a gun in your face. I could see it, and shit got a little bit out of hand. I mean, it probably happened very fast.
Or an ounce of whiskey an hour. So at that time when she died,
Drew, welcome in here, sir.
In her bloodstream of 5 or 6 beers, 5 or 6 ounces of whiskey.
And by just looking at the blood alcohol level, you don't know whether she was drinking beer, wine, tequila, brandy, whatever.
No, there's no way you can tell. It's just alcohol.
Okay, so let's assume that as of 2:30 she hadn't drank anything. Let's assume
keep an eye on this dude's
question
eyebrows.
That fact to be true, that at approximately 2:30 she, at some point thereafter, started drinking. How many drinks would you expect her to drink for her level to be .12 at approximately 5 a.m.?
She started at 2:30, then you have to add 2.5 more drinks for those for that 2.5 hours. So you're talking about, you know, like 7, 8 ounces of whiskey, 7 or 8 beers.
Now, Dr. DeMaio, with reference to the blood alcohol level, after the gunshot wound that killed her, would she continue to
Dude, this
absorb
dude's face
alcohol,
is
or would that
crazy.
stop at the time of her
They don't
death?
stop.
No,
So he's got to have some kind of
everything
tick or
you stop absorbing
maybe he's had a
it,
stroke or
you stop metabolizing.
something's happened to this
And so
man.
the alcohol at the time of autopsy reflects the alcohol at the time of death. The only time it will ever
his
change
brain
is
or
if the
something,
body
I imagine,
begins
right?
to
It's
decompose,
like a
which it didn't in this
neurological
case.
thing.
And if somebody, you know, had a
Feels like-
full stomach when they started drinking, would they absorb at a slower rate than if their stomach was empty?
Yes, they would. But all I'm saying is the amount of alcohol in the blood. I mean, I don't know if she had more alcohol in the stomach or anything. All you can say is at the time of her death, in the blood was the equivalent of 5 to 6 beers, 5 to 6 ounces of whiskey.
Okay. Now, Dr. DeMaio, moving to another area, basically, you're familiar, based upon your work in the field of forensic pathology, of running a medical examiner's office, and you're also familiar with how death certificates are signed by pathologists and medical examiners in the United States. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Other than pathologists like yourself, or police or other people who are not affiliated with a coroner's office or medical examiner's office, do they ever fill out death certificates?
They're not supposed to. In medical examiner or coroner cases, the only ones who are supposed to fill out the death certificates are either the medical examiner or if you're having a car.
And anybody that's unfamiliar, that may be new in here, that's come on over from anywhere else, we always have a live shot of Phil Spector lurking. Oh God, the ghoul is here at all times. This is through space and time. I have luckily been able to make some deals and get a live feed of Phil Spector from the 2007 a live shot from the trial. Believe it or not, that is a live shot of Phil Spector from right now in there. Creepy bastard.
Coroner system, the coroner or the coroner's physician.
Okay. And how does that work? In other words, the death certificate, in other words, what causes the medical examiner or coroner to be the one that actually takes care of that?
It's called the law.
Yo, Meg, get in here.
It's
Oh my God, Meg's behind Phil now.
Original
Yo,
coroner
Meg.
system, which
Morning.
originated around 950 AD in England, and then was carried over to the United States as a coroner system. And the medical examiner system arose in the late 19th century and covers about maybe 60% of the population. The other 40% is still coroner systems.
What's the difference between the two, the coroner system and the medical examiner system?
Well, strictly speaking, in a medical examiner system, the chief executive is the medical examiner, and he runs the office. In coroner systems, the coroner could be an elected individual, an appointed individual. In a lot of California counties, it's the sheriff, and they're the ones who head the medical legal system.
Okay.
That's about it.
So a coroner could not be a medical doctor, theoretically, correct?
In some places, the coroner is a medical doctor. Most places in the United States, the coroner is not a doctor.
Okay. What, in this particular case, if you were to issue a death certificate, what would you do in this particular case with reference to the death of Lana Clarkson on or about February 3rd of 2003, and what would be your reasons for making that particular finding?
I'd list the cause of death as an intraoral gunshot wound, and the manner of death is suicide. And basically, it's based on the objective scientific evidence. I mean, there's a lot of subjective, things going on, some presented by the defense, some presented by the prosecution. But in my opinion, in this case, you have to go with the scientific objective evidence. And that is that she had gunshot residue on her hands, she had blood spatter on her hands, she had tissue on her arms, and she had an intraoral gunshot wound, which is 99% of the time suicide. And you have to go with that objective evidence in making the ruling. There is no other objective scientific evidence that the gun was in anybody else's hands than hers. Everything else is speculation. The objective scientific evidence, it was in her hands.
Very good, Doctor. Thank you very much. Nothing further here.
Thank you.
Here we go. Now we're going to get a little cross. Some Alan Jackson.
Dr. DeMaio, the
Sexy Alan Jackson, ladies.
Any experienced and credible
Julie.
expert is objectivity, neutrality, independence. Correct?
Yes, sir.
You agree with that proposition?
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, if an expert were to testify and didn't have a level of neutrality, a level of objectivity, a level of independence, that expert's credibility would come into question, would it not?
Yes, sir.
And of course, you have indicated several times that you want to, I think the words you used yesterday when you were at the end of your testimony, when you were almost whispering to this jury, and you turned to them and you looked and you said, we have to stick to the objective scientific evidence. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We have to stick to the objective evidence.
And that objective scientific evidence.
Alan Jackson's coming in hot right now. He is.
This is what has driven you through this whole case, correct?
Yes, sir.
It was driving you when you were first hired onto this case as a consultant.
Yes, sir.
It was driving you yesterday during the course of your testimony.
He doesn't know how
yesterday,
spicy this
correct?
trial can get.
Yes, sir.
It's still driving you today. That
Judge
objective
Dowhart is the best judge
scientific evidence.
I've ever
Yes.
seen.
You began yesterday and you ended today. And almost exclusively yesterday, you talked about statistics. And a lot of your testimony was based on statistics.
No, the conclusion's not based on statistics.
I didn't ask you if the conclusion was, Doctor. I simply asked you, was your testimony in no small part yesterday, and did you end today with statistics?
I quoted statistics.
You
yes.
quoted a lot of statistics, as a
Yes,
matter of
sir.
fact. Correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is that the type of
tell he doesn't like
objective
this.
scientific evidence that you use or you utilize as a neutral, objective, and independent forensic expert?
You can't make rulings as on a basis of statistics. Well, I guess DNA is based on statistics, is all statistics. But with forensic pathology, what you have to do is assemble all the objective facts. You consider that, the probability, but it's not based on straight statistics, because there are no straight statistics, because you're dealing with individual people.
And you just, Doctor, you just indicated the mouthful right there. They're based on probabilities, correct?
That's correct.
So when you say in your experience, intraoral gunshot wounds are 99% suicide, 99% of the time you find them to be suicide, correct?
It's based on my experience, yes, sir.
And that has absolutely no relationship in science whatsoever to the facts that are before you in this case. Is that right, Doctor?
No, sir, you're wrong.
So in fact, there
excuse
was-
me, sir, I haven't finished my answer. Look,
I'm sorry,
here-
Dr. DeMaio,
but
were you not finished with the prior answer?
I was not answering. Right, I'm answering your question.
Okay.
Getting
It's
spicy.
not statistic. It's kind of like if you hear hoofbeats outside. When you look out the window, you expect to see horses, not zebras, running down the street. And the thing is, the whole life is controlled by statistics. You assume what you're going to get on the elevator, it's not going to drop straight down. That's probability. And the thing is you use it, but you don't make your decision 100% on statistics. And I just used that the intraoral gunshot wounds are almost 100%. Actually, to quote your own medical examiner, he said he had only seen one case in 3,000 autopsies. Well, if you move that's actually less than 1%, isn't it? See, 10% is 300, 1% is 30, 0.1% is 3. So he's saying he sees it in less than 0.1%, and that's your own expert.
That an intraoral gunshot wound is a homicide.
Right.
But it does happen, correct?
Of course it
And it's
does.
happened in your experience, correct?
I've seen in 37 years 3 homicides intraoral.
And of
Yes.
course, you're aware of Dr. Hawley, having seen other intraoral homicides as well, correct?
Dr. who?
Dr. Dean Hawley in Indiana?
I'm not aware of him.
All right. It wouldn't surprise you if he had done a paper on intraoral gunshot wounds and indicated that in his experience he has seen homicides that were intraoral. That wouldn't surprise you at all, would it?
If you go long enough, you'll see everything.
So statistics do not get us any closer to the facts of this particular case, correct?
Yes, they do. The thing is you don't make your decisions straight on statistics, but you have to consider probabilities. If you didn't consider statistics, then DNA, you'd have to discard use of DNA, and I don't think your office is going to discard DNA.
Well-
DNA is all probability. That's all it is.
Well, Doctor, we're not talking about DNA, first of all. We're talking about a statistic of intraoral gunshot wounds. And with DNA, you know that we're also talking about in the hundreds of quintillions, correct?
It depends upon, and it's not as simple as that. Suppose your probability is 1 in 100 billion with DNA. All that means is, if you have 100 billion people, in a sense, maybe one will have it. But suppose the first person you meet is the first in the 100 billion. So everybody uses probability. Probability is the basis for existence of our life. And what I'm saying is you don't say this is a suicide because it's an intraoral and it's 99%. I told you it's a whole mosaic. It's the intraoral, it's the blood, it's the tissue, it's the gunshot residue, all of that. You can argue with any one of them. I'm saying you put them all together, and this is my opinion.
Okay. You have, over the last day and a half, indicated a level of expertise in several different categories of forensics or sciences.
My expertise is in forensic pathology.
All right, and you've indicated a level of expertise, I think under questioning by Mr. Plord, in firearms, in blood spatter analysis, GSR, psychology, psychiatry, physiology, toxicology, physics, fluid dynamics, hydrodynamics, statistics, ballistics.
I don't even know what hydrodynamics is.
Well, I'm going to get to that point in a second,
Okay,
Dr. DeMaio.
but-
I can assure you, but let me finish my question. Ballistics, criminalistics, and histology. You have indicated, or at least touched upon, every one of those subjects. Is that right?
Yes, because most of those fall into either straight pathology, or you have to have a working knowledge of them for forensic pathology.
So are you an expert in each of these fields?
Excuse me, I don't think he's finished his answer.
If you fire a
Ladies and gentlemen, in this corner, or come from Los Angeles, California, Alan Jackson, and his opponent. I'm not sure where the hell he's from, but Dr. Vincent DeMaio. Let's ring the bell.
gun, I mean, if you don't know how a gun works, you know, you say, gee, this person's got a hole in the front and the hole in the back and there's a track going through it. I wonder what caused it. You have to know a little about it. I'm not a firearms examiner. I do not represent myself as a firearms examiner. And all I'm interested in blood spatter is the blood coming out from the body. I don't do angles. I don't do secondary fling-offs and things like that. I'm just sticking to forensic pathology, which has to incorporate these
All right,
things.
so to kind of finish up on that point, Dr. DeMaio, and I think you began to make it, but the reality is, as you sit here, you're an expert in forensic pathology. You're a medical examiner by training, correct?
That is right, sir.
You are not an expert in firearms.
No.
You're not
I
an
am not
expert
a firearms
firearms
examiner. That's correct.
All right. You are not an expert in blood spatter analysis.
I only address blood spatter ejected from the body. So anything beyond that, I do not do. That is correct,
So
sir.
you don't do the analysis at the crime scene.
That is correct, sir, and I have not ventured any opinions on that.
And, of course, you don't, the same would hold true with regard to GSR analysis, correct?
All I do is I interpret gunshot residue. My laboratory did it, but I didn't do the actual testing.
All right, so any information you would have about gunshot residue analysis, any information that you would have about blood spatter analysis would be information that you've read from other sources, correct?
No, some is observation and some is interpretation, because you give me the results and then I interpret it. And I put
New York. Thanks, Julie.
Gunshot residue in my book.
You know what? That makes
And, of
sense.
course,
He
you
sounds like
consulted
he's
with
familiar.
outside sources to write that chapter.
That checks out.
Actually, no.
You wrote that chapter yourself.
Yes, you review the medical. It's kind of like when you go to the medical literature. If you want to write about certain tumors, you have to review the medical literature and then combine the medical literature with your experience. So with blood spatter, I went to the medical literature. I got the articles by Karga, and then I incorporated them into my experience and wrote what I wrote.
All right, and of course the Karger analysis, or the blood spatter analysis they did, was the German set of doctors who did that overseas, correct? That
That's
was
correct, sir.
the paper that you're talking about.
Yes. Well, there's 3 papers actually.
All right, and the same holds true with, I won't go down the entire litany, but the same holds true with the exception of medical school and some training that you may have had in psychiatry or psychology. You are not a psychiatrist or a psychologist.
That is correct.
And getting
But
back
I'm
to the
just giving you very basic psychiatry, the principles that are known to all physicians.
And-
You have to know that. It's part of
done?
the practice of medicine.
Okay. And of course, this
You
goes
done?
back to the comment that you made to the jurors just a few minutes ago. You are
What's
certainly not a
happening?
physicist. You're not a hydrodynamicist, correct?
All right, I didn't express any opinions on that,
Well, we'll get to that in a second, Doctor.
except for the kinetic energy, which is part of wound ballistics.
Shit.
and wound
Alan Jackson's
ballistics
like,
is
well,
part of
actually, you
pathology.
did, and
You've
here's
not
the
been
proof,
formally trained in
bud.
fluid mechanics either, have you?
Buddy,
I'm not even
welcome
sure
in
what
here.
fluid mechanics is.
Well, like I
Morning,
said,
morning.
It's coming. We'll talk about it. And I think you even said under direct examination with Mr.
His
Ploy.
tics are going, oh my God, his tics are getting more extreme. Did you see that? His head's about to spin off his fucking shoulders. He can't handle
You are
this.
not a criminologist.
The pressure's too much.
I think you mean criminalist, not...
I'm sorry. That's exactly what I mean. I wrote it down wrong.
And he took that moment. He's like, oh, he fucked up, and I'm going to stick him right in the ribs with it.
Criminalist. You're not a criminalist, and you don't hold yourself out to be one.
That's correct.
So you would defer to others that are expert in that particular field, correct?
As long as they didn't wander into the forensic pathology field.
And of course, that would hold true for you too. You certainly wouldn't want to wander into their field either, would you, Doctor?
I don't wander there.
All right. With regard to the statistics that you cited yesterday and today,
Yes.
you indicated that firearms are the most common method of suicide, and drugs are second. And you indicated, I think your quote was, women prefer firearms. Isn't that right?
On a statistical basis, yes.
Where do you get that stuff?
Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'd like to know a little bit more about that myself. I would have thought it would have been drugs. I would have thought the opposite. Oh, God, Phil's out. Dear Lord in heaven.
Okay,
Mother of God, there's Phil Spector staring a hole through our souls. Hide the kids. Hide your children. The nightmare fuel is on the screen. Fucking hell, the goal. Woo!
All right, while the doctor's looking through his
Lord in heaven, I'm telling you.
I'm telling you like it is, baby.
materials, you may approach.
And then we got Judge Dowhard coming through. And I'll give him a little love, too, here.
Hey, motherfucker.
If anybody hasn't seen Judge Dowhard yet, he is a spitting image of Bruce Willis.
Oh, no.
Could
here
be
it
his
is.
brother.
Stuck. It's the article's called Suicide Among Women, a critical review. It's published in the Journal of the American Medical Women's Association in 2004. Is the one that refers to the incidence of suicide preferred women preferring to shoot themselves. Now, as to that they prefer handguns, that's in the article by Kohlmeyer, which was published in the year 2001. It's a 1704. Kohlmeyer also cites a paper by Wintermute, who reviewed 235 firearm suicides in California and found that handguns, that a greater percentage of women used handguns than men.
Handguns as opposed to long rifles.
Rifles and shotguns. And that was published in the American Journal of Public Health in 1988.
Doctor, what is the CDC? What does that stand for?
The CDC is the essentially Center of Disease Control, right?
For the United States?
Yeah.
All right, and it is a United States funded or a government funded organization?
That's correct. Yes,
Can I
sir.
finish?
Yes.
Sorry. It is a government-funded organization that maintains certain statistics throughout the country for the proper control groups, depending on what it is. It can be anything from how many cases of appendicitis to how many cases of ocular disease, correct?
Yes, sir.
Kind of runs the gamut, is that right?
Yes.
All right, and the foundation for any reliable statistic, as a matter of fact, you've heard
Look
the
at this.
phrase...
Look at him slumped over here in the corner, dude.
kind of colloquially, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics, right?
That's correct.
So statistics can be manipulated by clever folks, clever mathematicians, et cetera, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Oh,
they
yeah,
can
Adam.
sound any particular way you want them to. So one of the hallmarks of a good statistician
yeah,
is to
Simi,
maintain
get the hell back
a
in
good
here. You've been
control
missed.
group for the statistic, correct?
Well, you don't. Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Whoa.
Control group? No.
Do you know what I mean by control group?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I don't know if you know what you mean by control group. Control group.
Oh,
means-
shit! Damn! With the 1-2 punch from fucking DeMaio. He's like, I don't know if you know. Alan Jackson's probably about to correct him, but holy shit, damn, guns are coming out maybe.
This is gun country.
Whoa, we all need to just calm down just for 1 second. Holy shit, my friends. Damn, this shit is getting hot. Hot up in here. My lord.
Son of a bitch! Hold up! Hold up! Hold up! Respect my house.
If you do an experiment, you have to have an equal number. Okay, suppose you want to give a drug to a test out of a drug. So you give it to 100 people, and to another 100 people you give water and tell them that that's the drug. That's what a control group is. In statistics, you don't do a control group. You do a statistical analysis.
And you
do
maintain
standard deviations.
And you maintain a certain group of individuals that you are seeking to do the statistic on. For instance, you said women prefer guns, correct? To commit suicide.
What I said is that the statistics published in 2004 state that the most common method of suicide in women is guns.
Actually, what you said was, quote, women prefer guns.
No, then I said women prefer handguns.
Okay.
That's what I said. And they do handguns.
Can we get a read back, please?
And that's in the
what
study
did he say?
By Kohlmeyer, and it's also the study that came out of California in 1988.
So your testimony is that and how you applied it to this particular case is that in your mind, the statistic that's important to you is that women prefer handguns, and therefore that played into, at least in part, your determination of the manner of death in this case, along with several other things.
Absolutely, it played no role at all.
All right.
If you remember, I quoted other things. I never did. I just wanted to inform the jury because there's a myth about that women don't shoot themselves, women don't use handguns, and women don't shoot themselves in the head. That's called an education. What I was giving them, letting them know that's not true. But that really played no role in my conclusion.
All right. Were you just about to say that was an educated guess?
No, it's an educational point.
Oh, no, he was about to totally say that, dude.
No,
shit.
If you notice, every time I give you a statement, I'm calling up a reference to it in the medical literature or the scientific literature.
The person at issue in your mind was Lana Clarkson when you were analyzing this case, correct?
This is interesting.
Yeah, well, that's the main person involved. Yeah.
I knew the cross was going to be spicy.
Of course, there was another person involved, wasn't there?
Yes.
All right. With regard to Lana Clarkson, she was a 40-year-old female, correct, at the time of her death?
Yes, sir.
This happened in 2003, correct?
Yes, sir.
To your knowledge, she was Caucasian, non-Hispanic, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so a proper statistic, if you were to look at statistics, might include 35 to 44-year-old women who are Caucasian, non-Hispanics back in 2003, correct? Might be an applicable statistic.
You might be, except for one slight little problem.
Okay, what's that, doctor?
The problem is what you call the Caucasian. In my community, which is San Antonio, the population is maybe 60% Hispanic, Mexican American. Well, they're all classified as Caucasian. So 35-year-old white females in my community also include people of Mexican American or South American origin.
Okay.
So that doesn't.
Okay, maybe you didn't hear me correctly.
No, I heard you're saying trying to restrict to your population.
Actually, Dr. DeMaio, if you'll allow me, please.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you didn't hear me correctly. I indicated 35 to 44-year-old female, white, comma, non-Hispanic, comma, females.
How do you differentiate white females non-Hispanic from white females Hispanic if you use my statistics and lots of other people's statistics who don't differentiate?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's use the CDC statistics.
The problem with the CDC, which I don't know if you've ever talked to the people personally, and I have, is that 40% of the death certificates are filled in incorrectly in the United States.
All right. That
What?
Understanding the fact that you obviously know more about this than the
What
CDC
percentage
does,
did he say?
Would you agree or disagree that the accurate statistic for 2003 in the United States for suicides, women aged 35 to 44, considered white and non-Hispanic, using the CDC's definition, the number one cause of death was, in fact, poisoning, which is otherwise referred to as overdosing.
That's what Dizzy said. Holy shit, Dizzy coming through.
And the second
Hold on, let me get
viral.
Phil off the screen here. Let's get this ugly son of a bitch out of here for a minute so we can see this. Get my shadows off there.
Yes, sir.
You see,
Still can't really read it, but as you can see, that is poisoning as number one there, though. And it has quite the
that
lead.
statistic?
Yes.
No, we should mark it.
I'm sorry, that's my fault.
Your next exhibit.
Equals 155?
Yes, it is, 155.
I'll place the P155 in the bottom right-hand corner. All right, so according to the CDC at least, no, it's fine. According to the CDC at least, given those particular controls and that group of individuals, women don't prefer handguns. Those women prefer poisoning or overdosing.
No,
correct?
that you haven't proved that with your statistics.
I'm not asking if I
no,
proved anything.
no,
I'm asking if you're aware of the CDC's findings.
Your statistics don't say that, sir. What your statistics say, if you want to go with those, is that in that narrow age group that you've picked, then women prefer to take poison rather than shoot themselves.
And of course, Donna
But,
Clarkson was
excuse
in that
me,
age group.
again,
correct?
you're interrupting.
First of all,
Judge Dowhard's about to set them both fucking straight. First of all, the best judge in the business, in the game, and Dr. Vincent DeMo, you can see he's a bit of a cocksucker. Let's just be honest.
which I have to agree with.
Right.
Let him finish his answers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Dude, this judge is the best, bro. He's the fucking best all day. Let's give him a little love here, real quick. Judge Dowhard.
Hey, motherfucker.
Next question after that. All right, go ahead and finish your answer.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. But what I said is they prefer handguns. Now, that is not addressed in the number that you showed. But never mind.
So you do agree
What do you mean,
that
never
in
mind?
that age group with white women back in 2000?
I'm never having an argument with someone who's like, you know what, fuck, you know what, never fucking mind. You know what, that's even more important than a fucking
Agree.
argument.
The number one, the leading cause of suicide was in fact, or the leading method of suicide was in fact overdosing.
If you narrow it to that 5 age group, and I assume that you're giving me the straight statistics, which I will assume, then it does.
Okay,
And
thank you.
You're interrupting.
And of course, I want to stick on this subject for just a quick second before I move into your report. Just so I understand this, statistics will not answer a particular question in a particular case. I realize that they have their use, Doctor.
Right.
I'm not arguing that they don't have their use in life. I mean, some people are statisticians by trade. What I'm asking you is, do statistics by their nature answer any particular questions in any particular case?
what they can do is give you a probability and narrow the field, so that you can, and it's a factor that you have to take into consideration. And so if you have a probability of 99% or something like that, you have to consider it. You can't just assume that it's 50-50. You have to consider that. Now, you don't call it just on that unless you have other factors that you incorporate, or otherwise what you have is a complete pandemonium.
All right, so
Pandemonium!
for instance, let's use one quick example before I move off this point. If I were to ask you, as you sit here right now, what color car do I drive? You'd probably have no idea, would you?
No.
All right. What if, and that's the question before you, all right, what color car do I drive, Alan Jackson? And if I give you a statistic that most cars, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but let's say most cars on California highways and freeways are white. Now, doctor, what color car do I drive?
So I wouldn't give you, because I would prefer something with 99% probability, not most. So if you said 99% of the cars were white, then I would say the probability is 99% of the time that your car, 99% that your car is white.
And of course, that would be a guess, wouldn't it?
No, sir.
That would be a guess based on statistics.
That's not a guess. There's a difference. A guess would be, well, most cars. But when you get 99%, it's probability. If I told you that if you bought this lottery ticket, you had a 99% probability of winning $10 million, I know you would say, give me the ticket. Because you would say, 99%, yeah, it's worth a chance.
Worth a chance, but certainly not definitive and certainly not scientific. In other words, if you wanted to know what kind of car I drove or what color car I drove, doctor, you'd need to look in my garage, wouldn't you?
Excuse me.
No,
Okay.
let him finish his question, and then you can answer.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Did you understand my question,
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Morales?
And you said it's not scientific. Yes, it is scientific. The way the 99% is calculated is based on science. It doesn't necessarily give you the 100% answer, which is why I did not say this was a suicide or self-inflicted wound just based on that. Just based on that, yeah, the probability is 99%. But you have to take into the other factors and see if there's anything else. Now, if you said it was 99% probability, that, you know, well, never mind. We're getting into statistics,
And they're not worth much, are they?
no, yes, they are.
Son of a bitch! What the fuck, dude? Yo, oh my God.
You know what? I'll move on.
Believe me.
Wow. You made your point,
Dismiss all the
Jackson. You
array
did really
cases in
well.
this county because they're all based on probability.
Wow,
This is what
bro.
DNA is.
Wow.
DNA is probability. You'd have to throw out every single case of rape prosecution in this community if you said, let's throw away probability.
You done?
Yes.
Okay. Now that we've addressed statistics, let's move on to your report.
Yes.
You did, in fact, file a report in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
How many notes did you, or how many pages of notes did you take in preparation for
Forrest,
either
good morning.
It's
been a spicy morning. Holy cow, you're walking into one.
I don't take notes. What I do is I sit down, I read everything, and I go and I highlight everything, and then I sit down and I write the report.
When did you write your report in this case?
The report's dated February the 10th, 2007, so sometime just before that.
And you wrote a second report in this case dated March 23rd, 2007.
That's correct. That had to do with the tissue.
This is a good one. When it gets spicy on this trial, it's fucking really interesting. Like, you can go through some shit that's, you know, it's kind of like,
did you
oh,
sit down
banging your head
to
against
write the report on
the wall,
February
but
10th?
when it
Oh,
gets
no, I
interesting,
would've
and this has been, DeMaio's been interesting the entire
Why
time.
is it dated February 10th?
Because that's the day that I would have signed it and sent it out.
When did you start writing this report, Dr.
I would
DeMaio?
have absolutely no idea.
Was it close in time to the time that you were first hired to consult in this case?
Oh, no, this would have been written immediately prior to February 10th.
So what did you have available to you when you sat down to write this report?
There's a list of the things that I have available.
Okay. Do you want to tell me what those are?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Your Honor.
Oh, there is.
You know,
Sir, I understand completely. And
Yes.
if you want me to approach, if you think we need to, I know exactly where the concern is.
I want to approach so
You
I
know
can
what,
punch him in
let's
the
do it this way.
fucking nose. That's what he's thinking.
Let me ask, did you consider the coroner's file?
yes, sir.
Did you consider photographs of the scene and the body?
Yes, sir.
Did you actually attend the autopsy in this case?
No, sir, I did not.
Didn't you indicate that obviously attending the autopsy would have been the best course for gleaning as much information as possible about the findings of the medical examiner, in this case, Dr. Pena?
It may or may not. I'm not disagreeing with any of his physical findings at autopsy, just as his opinion as to the cause, as to the manner of death.
How about the physical findings on the tongue?
I'm not disagreeing with him.
Okay, so you agree that there was a bruise on the left side of the tongue, correct?
Oh, yeah, I agree with all the findings.
And you're aware that he did not find any kind of bruising on the right side of the tongue?
Yeah, but that's in the picture, though.
I'm not asking you what's in the picture, what's not. I'm asking you if you
I
agree or
know that,
disagree
but
with
the
it.
picture is part of the autopsy report that I could see.
Okay, so, and you're aware that he did not find any malady on the right side of the tongue?
He did not describe it, yes, sir.
Well, I think that malady is, it's perhaps not the best word, but I think it's understood.
Didn't find any defect on the right side of the tongue?
He didn't describe it, that's true,
Right.
yes, sir.
And you read his entire autopsy file?
Yes, sir.
All right, but you have no qualms with the rest of the autopsy that he did?
No.
All right. As a matter of fact, you found his autopsy to be professional,
Yes.
to be within the standards of the medical practice in which he does practice, correct?
Yes.
Becky B, welcome in here.
You had certain
Love to see
laboratory
it.
reports generated by the Sheriff's Crime Lab, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you read the notes associated with Dr. Pena's autopsy, his actual protocol?
I read the complete coroner's file on the
Did
case.
you also read the complete LASO file, the sheriff's office file?
No, I just read the laboratory reports.
All right, so you didn't read for instance, Dr. Harold's notes, Mr. Renteria's notes, Ms. Pinto's notes?
If they were part of the laboratory report, I would have read them, yes, sir.
All right, and you read certain of Ms. Clarkson's medical records, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and I think you've already indicated on direct examination you covered certain...
Hell yeah, Sinead coming through with a $5.99. That's $6. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Love it, love it, love it. Hell yeah.
Brooklyn,
Fuck yeah, Sinead. Appreciate that. Getting you on the wheel. And yeah, we're continuing to grow this thing. I know we got some new folks coming through here. And Sinead was nice enough to give her last donation to Becky B, who just came through here. Welcome in here, Becky B. And yeah, you have an opportunity to win the trifecta, the holy trinity of stickers this morning as we continue to grow this thing. Let's see how far we are away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 away. Growing that thing. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate that.
That was from Ms. Clarkson, correct?
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
shit. Okay, that one's for Becky. You want 2 for Becky? I got you.
And there were certain
Or you want the first one for yourself?
toxicological reports as well that you read.
I'll do
Yes,
whatever you
and
want
became
me to
familiar
do.
Yes.
All right. Are those the items that you basically had at your fingertips when you drafted your report?
Except for including items 7.
Buzz
I
Nation, the
understand.
best, baby.
Right. But the
Love you
things that
guys.
I've listed are things that you had at your
If you're walking through the door, hit the old like. That helps us out as well. Lets YouTube know that folks like what they see out there.
fingertips when you were actually drafting this report.
Yes, sir.
And this report was drafted sometime in 2007.
Yes, sir.
Just before February 10th.
Yes, sir.
When did you actually examine the clothing, the actual physical evidence in this particular case?
When I made the trip here back in late last year.
Was that May of 2006? Does that sound right?
It may be.
May or June, something like that?
Something like that.
All right,
I
and
don't-
you didn't take any notes about your findings or conclusions at that time?
No, I did
So you
not.
just based anything that you brought into your report in February of 2007, you brought in from memory?
By observation, yes, sir.
I'm sorry?
By observation.
And it's your memory of those observations that made their way into the final report?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, let's turn to your report for just a second. There's a few things that I want to go over. One of the first things that you indicate in your report is
get into
consistent
the
with how you've
report.
testified over the last day and a half, and I think we've covered the effect of this. You start off by saying most intraoral gunshot wounds are self-inflicted. Now, you agree that in and of itself is simply a statistic, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, that is not a medical opinion specifically. That is an opinion of or that is a citing of a statistic, not a medical opinion.
Well, it's a
correct?
medical opinion, but it's not a medical diagnosis.
All
That's
right.
what you mean.
You're aware of other statistics in this same realm, correct? I mean, if we're going to talk about statistics a
Charlene,
little bit,
good
I want to ask
morning.
you about a couple of other statistics.
Buzz Nation.
Are you aware that women who are killed by guns to the head, in other words, gunshot wounds to the head, are 8 times more likely to be the victim of a homicide than a suicide?
I wouldn't be surprised.
All right. Another statistic. Most people who shoot themselves do so in private.
I agree.
As a matter of fact, that you agree because those are your words. That came right out of your book, didn't it?
Right.
All
I
right.
agree.
Another statistic. Most people who commit suicide do so in their own home. Not only in private, but in their own home.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. The vast majority, Dr. DeMaio, of people who do kill themselves with a gun, they do not shoot themselves in the mouth, correct? They pick some other area on their body rather than the mouth,
Right. Only 14% of the people shoot themselves in the mouth.
which leaves
Real
us...
quick, I put a poll up. I got 20 votes on that poll so far. Appreciate it, guys. New video for members. Have you seen it? I put fuck yeah, and I put not yet but soon. 70% is on the not yet but soon. Make sure if you are a member here and part of the Buzz Nation, you go to the video section and check out the new video that I just dropped this week. That is for you guys. And I've got some more stuff lined up as well. I did a thread on X this week that was about this incredible, like telescope that we have here in West Virginia that is in something called the quiet zone. All right, this is an area that you can bring. I mean, the cell phones aren't going to work. Like cell phones, any kind of electronics really doesn't work in this town. A lot of people go there that have the, they sense the electromagnetic field, I believe it's called, and they always hear like a buzzing or a humming. They can go there and kind of get relieved from that and live almost like a more of an old school existence, even, right, without the technology there. But that's not that far from here. I'm going to try to figure out a way to get there and make a video on that place. And I don't know, there's a lot of weird, spooky, creepy, a lot of conspiracy stuff, of course, that goes along with it, but also a lot of scientific research. There's a lot of researchers there that can use that space to further the research, because it is such a unique atmosphere, right, where you're not actually inside of just endless amounts of electromagnetic fields from electronic devices. So yeah, I think I'm going to try to do that for members only soon.
I'm not that good at math, but leaves us with about 86% of the time people pick a place other than intraorally to kill themselves with a gun if they do so, correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right. And of course, women are less likely to shoot themselves in the head than they are to shoot themselves in the chest or abdomen. You agree with that statistic as well?
Right. There's a 9% difference compared to men.
All right. You agree with the concept that you can't simply, any unbiased, objective expert cannot simply rely on the statistics that are tailored to one side or the other. I mean, a good, neutral, objective, independent forensic expert would, of course, let the trier of fact know all of the statistics that are relevant to a particular issue. For instance, suicides and homicides.
What's up?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Good morning.
None of these statistics that I've just mentioned, you've mentioned.
You have been forgiven, my child.
With the exception of the 14% in your direct examination, correct?
I think I mentioned that. The notes that I gave you prior to this have this all broken down.
I'm asking about your testimony before this jury.
I answered the questions. Well, okay, what didn't I say? I didn't say it was mostly in the house, and it's mostly, yeah, but I wasn't asked that question.
Okay. And if you weren't asked it, you weren't going to volunteer?
Volunteer what? I mean,
When you were asked what
A little bit of a dance going on here, isn't
If I
it?
started sitting here volunteering things, I don't think the court would appreciate it. We're supposed to answer questions here, sir.
All right.
So, okay?
And in fact,
Good
when you
answer.
were asked what did you base your opinion on, you didn't volunteer these statistics that I've just read to you, but you did in fact volunteer the statistic that most intraoral gunshot wounds that you've seen in your experience
Yeah,
are
because
suicide.
that's the most significant thing, because it's the percentage is so high, it's over 99%,
All right.
even according to your own medical examiner.
You've read Dr. Lee, Dr. DeForest, and Ganslin's book.
No, sir.
You're not familiar with Dr. Lee DeForest and Ganslin's book called
I am.
Forensic Science and Introduction to Criminalistics?
I haven't read the book.
All right. Would you have any quarrel if in their book they indicated that any reconstruction hypothesis?
The way you're phrasing the question, I would sustain it on hearsay grounds. You may rephrase it.
Sure. Let me read you a quote and ask you if you agree or disagree with this hypothesis.
When you say you're reading a quote, the objection is sustained. There's other ways to do it.
Doctor, are you well, let me ask you this way. Would you agree or disagree with the hypothesis that any reconstructionist's hypothesis must take into account all the facts and observations, every fact and every observation into account, and certain facts cannot be ignored because they simply fail to fit the hypothesis? You would agree with that, correct?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I mean, the thing is like when I was talking about history, that's why you want to get all the history, even if some of it turns out false.
All right,
You just want to get everything.
And
Yes.
I'm sorry, are you done?
Yes.
Any interpretation by any reconstructionist in an effort to reconstruct certain things or certain events, especially regarding a crime, should be a true scientific endeavor and not be mere guesswork. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you consider the fact
Yeah,
that Lana Clarkson
this has been
was,
very
in fact,
interesting.
not home
This will be one to
when she was
rewatch, I
killed?
would say,
yes.
for us.
Did you consider the fact that Lana Clarkson had met Mr. Spector basically that evening and was pretty much a stranger to him?
Oh, yes.
Did you consider the fact that she was in a stranger's house when she was killed?
Yes.
Did you consider the fact that Lana Clarkson would have no way of knowing where Mr. Spector would have had guns in the house?
Sustained.
Oh, shit, Phil.
Did you consider the fact that the gun was actually in a bureau drawer?
Objection. Well, I'll withdraw that.
That was probably, yes.
Okay. Did you consider the fact that
There we go. Get the beers in the chat, everybody. Fuck yeah. Adam Drives Helen becoming a member here in the Buzz Nation. That's what I'm talking about. Let's fucking go.
Hey, motherfucker.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Fuck yeah. Welcome in here. Love to see it. That's going to get you on this wheel for a possibility of getting these stickers. And again, another opportunity. There is no limit to how many times you can get on a wheel. We could have an entire wheel with one person on it and, you know, wouldn't even need to spin it at that point. But hell yes, Adam, let's go. Appreciate that, everybody. Let's rock and killing it here. Buzz Nation, I fucking love it. And then I think, well, I've got it paused here for just a moment. Hold on. Give me 2 seconds here. Give me 1 second, actually. Let me go over the old emails. Yes, indeed. I thought I saw something come through here. Kathy coming through. Thank you so much, Kathy, with a 420. Wink, wink. Sundays are better with Pastor Steve. Appreciate that. Thank you so much, man. The kindness is out of this freaking world. Like, everyone is so freaking nice, so cool. And everybody's got a price. And everyone's going to pay. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Get the hell yes. Get the murder churches. Get the beers. Get the probably nothings. The little mini tornadoes. Wink, wink. In the chat there. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out this morning. I appreciate it. And then, Kathy, let me get you on this wheel also as we can continue. I think we're only 2 away.
Associated holster in a bureau drawer.
Yes, sir.
Did you consider the fact that the gun was loaded with bullets that were consistent with other bullets throughout Mr. Spector's home?
Yes, sir.
Did you consider the fact
Yeah,
that
2
Lana
away from a
Clarkson was
spin this
actually
morning.
seated
Y'all
by
are
the
killing
back
it.
door
Thank y'all so
when she
much.
was
Buzz
killed?
Nation showing out today. Love it.
She was seated next to a door, that's right, which is the main exit and entrance, yes.
And that would be the back door where the motor court is, correct?
Yeah, I think it's used more as a front door than the front door. I don't think is very accessible. I think it's actually okay. Yes.
She was seated by a door.
Yeah.
I mean, just within feet of a door.
Yes.
And she was seated there with her purse on her right shoulder, correct, when she was
Yes.
found?
Well, it had slipped out onto her lower arm. Yes, sir.
On her lower arm?
Okay, onto her. Let's see. I have the photograph right here. It slipped down to.
You talking about the purse?
Her upper arm, behind her upper arm, and ran down straight along and parallel to her forearm.
All right. In fact, it was basically just off of her right shoulder, correct?
Yeah, and then it ran down the arm.
Right. The strap.
The strap, right.
All right. So basically, I mean, not to split hairs, but her purse was basically on her right shoulder.
Right.
All right. And you considered that and come to your conclusions
yeah.
and opinions. Yet the first thing in your report, notwithstanding the fact that you indicate to this jury that you considered all of those factors, the first thing in your report was intraoral gunshot wounds are normally suicide.
Because that's the most important thing, and you have to organize it. You don't start a report with saying there was dirt on the back porch, and then about the 35th item you say, and the elephant in the living room. I mean, the thing is you organize reports usually in the order of importance as you go down. And so that, in this case, the most significant thing is that's an intraoral wound.
So
It is the most significant.
your testimony is, Dr. DeMaio, the most important thing in your mind, in your opinion, as an expert forensic forensic pathologist, the most important thing in your mind in this whole case is the statistic that most intraoral gunshot wounds are suicide rather than the actual facts of the case. Is that your testimony?
No, sir. The facts of the case, it's an intraoral gunshot wound. And the most important thing is that forensic pathologists know that intraoral gunshot wounds are about 99% plus suicides. That's an important thing. You can't just say it's statistic and we cannot consider it. It has to be considered, and that's one of the major points, that people don't commit homicide by sticking guns in people's mouth. As you pointed out, they shoot people in other areas.
But of course, it can happen.
Yes, sir.
And you've
Anything
seen it
can happen, but basically it's improbable. So you have to consider that as one of the things. And then I combined it with anything else, and I looked for anything that was contradictory. So you look at the positive and you look at the negative, and that's what I did.
All right. And not only can it happen, Dr. DeMaio, it has happened.
It's happened 3 times in 9,000 autopsies. Yes, sir.
And this could be the 4th.
Well, since I didn't do the autopsy, it wouldn't be the 4th. I would count for the Los Angeles.
All right. Let's talk about GSR for just a second.
Yes, sir.
You indicated that you have filed published chapters in your book
Yes, sir.
concerning GSR. I think you've talked at length with Mr. Plord about GSR.
Yes, sir.
I assume that you've read scientific literature about GSR,
Yes, sir.
scientific studies,
Yes, sir.
industry journals.
Not industry journals, scientific articles.
All right, scientific articles, textbooks, other publications regarding.
Basically, scientific articles in the journals.
All right, and that literature has been on the subject of GSR and GSR analysis and the use and misuse of GSR, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the interpretation of GSR.
Yes, sir.
And of course, you've also read scientific articles and textbooks about firearms and ammunition and propellants and things of that nature, correct?
Yes, sir.
There are criminalists and experts who have published articles and books almost exclusively about this subject, correct?
They publish material, yes, sir.
All right, and the FBI is one source of information that is published on this particular topic, correct?
Yes, sir.
Other experts include a fellow that you were here in court with not long ago, Stuart James, correct?
I don't think he's published on GSR.
Okay. How about Werner Spitz?
Werner Spitz probably has a section in his book on GSR, but I don't think he's got I don't know how much experience he has. Can't tell you. You're going to have to ask him.
How about Paul Kish?
You're going to have to ask him.
I'm not asking you what his experience is, Doctor. I'm asking you.
Well, I'm trying to tell you I don't know what his
Doctor, you need to wait until I finish my question.
Yes, sir.
Diane can only take one of us down at a time, please.
Yes,
okay? What I'm asking you, Dr. DeMaio, is whether or not you're aware of Paul Kish ever publishing on the subject matter of GSR.
I don't recall.
And you know who Paul Kish is, of course.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
Do you know Mr. Kish?
No. I know he's one of the consultants in this case.
Am I interrupting? Do you need to?
No, but I was if you were going to ask me some questions, I was going to try to get my references in line.
If you need references, we'll give you the time to take whatever
Yes, sir.
you need. All right. You agree that there is certain scientific consensus about GSR and the use of GSR, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And that certain scientific consensus has been published widely on the issue of GSR.
Yes, sir.
Experts in the industry tend to agree about the science of GSR, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And in fact, you're aware.
All right, we still got a little bit here. I'm going to run, use the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Well,
Oh, shit. Before I go, Julie Frew coming through here and gift out a membership. And we got somebody lurking back there who just picked one of those sons of bitches up. Nan Wortham. Welcome in here. That's what I'm talking about. Some beers in the chat would be nice for Nan. Welcome them in with a couple of brews. Why not, right? Shit.
Welcome to the party, pal.
That right there just finished up a will thanks to Forrest. I see you, Forrest. Julie, let me get you on here real quick. Bada bing, bada boom. Gotcha, with a possibility of winning some stickers this morning. And then Forrest coming through right behind it. This one is for Dizzy. Thanks for all you do for everyone. Dizzy is absolutely unbelievable. She is the best. We love Dizzy around these parts. I think I said that this week in a tweet. I was praising her about how she is maybe the MVP at least the communities that I'm a part of, and I'm so lucky to have her in our stable here. If there's anything that I need information-wise about any kind of case, period, but anything that I'm working on, man, she's right there. She's always offering help. She's amazing. She's awesome. Like, she is out of this world. So, Forrest, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate that. Nicest folks right here in the Buzz Nation. That's what I say.
In your report, did you say,
love everybody. Thank y'all so
as
much.
to GSR,
Y'all help me and
Ms.
Gypsy out so
Clarkson had
much.
abundant GSR on her
All
hands.
of everything that comes through here goes to
Spector only
Gypsy.
had
That is
one
not
unique
a
and
lie
one
or
consistent
bullshit.
particle on his hands.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm using bathroom
And you
beer, baby.
indicated the presence of 1 or 2 GSR particles on the hands does not mean that an individual fired a gun.
Yes, sir.
There is scientific evidence, for instance, or
Listening on my phone, though, 'cause I don't wanna miss
GSR on
this.
Ms. Clarkson's hands, consistent with the fact that she was holding the gun at the time of the discharge, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you stand by that statement?
Yes, sir.
You are well aware, Dr. DeMaio, that according to the scientific literature, that statement is patently false, correct?
No, sir.
There is absolutely no way, according to the scientific literature, Dr. DeMaio, that you can tell who fired a gun simply by the existence or non-existence of GSR particles on one's hands. Isn't that true?
Excuse me, sir.
Is that or is that not true?
In virtually all cases, you cannot determine whether a person was the firer of a gun. And that's why, if you look at my report, you left one word, you're forgetting the word that's in front that says consistent with. Gunshot residue is used in most instances by medical examiners to determine whether it's consistent with. And that's what I said in the whole thing. Any one of these things, I'm telling you, you can take away and explain. It's the whole picture. There are rare instances in which, you want me to give you an example of a case
I want
where...
you to try to answer my question,
Yes.
whether or not you, in fact, know that the scientific literature and the scientific community are in agreement that the existence or non-existence of GSR
we're back,
on a
baby.
person's hands will not
I'm still working on this
tell
wheel.
you anything about whether they fired a gun.
I disagree with that because if we look at the scientific literature, such as the summary of the FBI Laboratories Gunshot Residue Symposium in May of 2005, there's something very interesting about this literature. Go look what the attendees are and tell me how many MDs were there. None of these people signs a death certificate. Go to the gunshot residue literature. These are technicians. They don't sign the death certificates.
So you know something they don't know,
Yes.
correct?
May I finish my
I
answer?
wish you would.
Here's the whole thing. When you analyze, in these people who do that, they determine what gunshot residue is. And in and of it by itself, gunshot residue just means that a gun has been discharged. Now, what the forensic pathologist wants is to determine the distribution of the gunshot residue or whether it's present to see if it's consistent with the person firing a gun. Thus, I had a case in which a man was supposed to have killed himself by shooting himself in the head with a gun. There was no gunshot residue on his hands. When you took the gun and fired it 23 times under the same circumstances, there was never less than 63 gunshot residue particles on his hands. So if you fire it 23 times and you get 63 plus particles, and he has no gunshot residue on his hands, I would think some people would conclude he did not fire the gun. And what I'm saying about it is the way the deposition and distribution of gunshot residue is used by medical examiners is not to say this person fired the gun, but this is consistent with other materials.
Sheila, starting out a new wheel for me. Thank you so much. Fuck yeah, man. You guys are too nice. I love you all so much.
In my report, I use the word consistent.
And what you actually say is,
Thank you,
there
Sheila.
is scientific evidence, e.g., GSR on Miss Clarkson's hands, consistent with the fact that she was holding the gun at the time of discharge. Is that what you said?
That's what I
Oh, I
said.
got you.
All right, and that was the
Got you.
quote that I read you the
Dave,
first
getting
time.
on there
That's
thanks to
what I said.
Sheila.
Dr.
Again, we have the
DeMaio, why
nicest
did you
folks in here,
not
baby.
Go on to say,
I love everyone.
it's also consistent with her not having fired the weapon.
Love
Why
it.
did you not include that in your report?
Because I assume that the person reading the report, I'm not going to get that. Because anybody who is a scientist would know what you have just spoken about. The thing is, if you go to the literature says that you cannot determine whether a person positively fired a gun by just the GSR. So GSR is one of the pieces of the puzzles that you use. Now, like in the case I told you, this man had no GSR, but when you fired the gun 23 times, every time there was 60 or more particles, and he had not one particle on his hand. I think you would be committing idiocy if you said, well, I can't determine whether he fired the gun this way. 63 particles plus 23 times.
I have really no idea what that has to do with my question.
It has
the point that you're trying to make. My question to you is, Dr. DeMaio, you didn't include the other alternative, which is the GSR on her hands are consistent.
This is good.
or is
Anybody that's
consistent
coming
with her
late,
not having
this is
fired
worth a
weapon,
watch.
But is also consistent with her just being in the environment of a weapon.
Especially
which
if you
was
like
fired.
Jackson.
Correct.
Because this is a scientific report, and you assume that the person reading the report has some basic knowledge of what's going on.
So you wrote this report for other scientists, not for discovery to the prosecution in this case in anticipation of your testimony. Is that what you're saying?
No, sir. I assume that the prosecution employed scientists who could interpret it for the district attorney what the report meant.
And of course, you testified yesterday and today exactly the way that your report sounds. The GSR is consistent with Ms. Clarkson having fired the gun. You testified to that.
Which means I'm consistent with what I said in the first place, and I'm consistent what I published, and that's what I said. It's consistent with.
And you didn't say to this lay jury, who is not a jury of your peer scientists, but a lay jury, you didn't say, and it's also consistent with Ms. Clarkson not firing the gun, did you?
No.
Is there any reason you left that out of your testimony, Dr. DeMaio?
Because that's how you testify, consistent with. I mean, it's just, never mind.
This is part of the objective scientific evidence that you told us about, correct?
Well, you had scientific witnesses testifying here
That's not-
when I was present who were not objective, who said things that were absolutely nonsense
Dr.
and
DeMaio,
did
that's
not
not-
meet scientific
you're-
Whoa.
criteria.
Not-
I know that, but what you're saying is
There's no place to say that.
I'm saying,
Sir, sir. now that
He's
we
getting a
have-
little out of control
Not
here.
answering the question. Ask the question
Yes.
again.
Thank you. Dr. DeMaio, I'm not
Whoa.
asking you to opine about what others have done. I'm asking you what
Opine,
you
I
did,
love that word.
okay?
what I
It's
did
now
was
in my
I told
vocabulary.
the jury the truth. And I testified that it's consistent with.
Actually-
And the jury, unless you think the jury is stupid or something,
Actually, you told the jury a half-truth.
What the
You
fuck,
said
bro?
half of that statement, which
He's
the
making some
entire
assumptions here.
scientific community agrees with, Dr. DeMaio.
And going wild,
which
'cause
is
AJ's got him
gunshot
fucking
residue
going
will
right now.
Not tell you who fired a weapon, correct?
right, sir, and I never.
Overruled.
Right, sir, and I told the jury, any one of the things I'm telling you, you can explain. It's the whole pattern when you put it all together with. There are very few things that are consistent, that are 100% in this life. Death and taxes are probably the only two. And the thing is it's consistent with, and that's what it says.
And it's also the GSR that appears on Mr. Spector's hands are also
Phil wants to get up and fight
consistent
AJ.
with him having fired a weapon. Isn't that true?
Sure, you could argue it that way.
But
if
you
want.
didn't tell this jury that in your direct testimony either, did you? Yes or no?
No, sir, I did
All right,
not.
thank you.
He might be. Our good friend Dr. Pena, who was up here for a long time.
As I
Oh shit, Kathy coming through, and I love it when I see this, Kathy. 420 with a wink wink. Thank you very much. Put Pumpkin on the wheel, please. And if anybody does not know, Pumpkin is the cat of Kathy. Been trying to get a win here for quite some time, and I do something special for Pumpkin. If Pumpkin wins this, not only, Kathy, will you get these stickers, but you're also going to get a t-shirt for Pumpkin. All right, that's only for Pumpkin. Just putting that out there. Thank you so much. Good luck, Pumpkin.
I indicated earlier, I think your testimony was the objective scientific evidence is what drives you in this particular case, the key word being objective.
Yes, sir.
You would find it inappropriate if any witness who is supposed to be objective, any expert, were to tailor or taint his or her testimony to favor one side or the other. That would be inappropriate, correct?
Yes.
And that particular expert would lose credibility, for
Yes,
instance.
sir.
Because that particular expert would become more like like an advocate rather than an unbiased, untarnished expert, correct?
Yes, sir.
Overruled.
How much have you gotten
This has
paid by
been
Mr.
really
Spector
good.
so far?
I'd say I charge $400 an hour, which is the same I charge the city of Los Angeles and the Los Angeles Police Department. Only in this case, because of the visits, so far I've charged $26,000, $26,400.
Is that including today?
No, sir, the longer you talk, the more you're
it's
running up
costing
the
Mr.
bill.
Spector, right?
Wow, bro.
If you
Never
want
saw
to-
Spector's sitting over there like, ha ha ha, this is my life.
Costing Mr. Spector. All right.
This motherfucker was worth like $50 million while he sat in prison and died of COVID,
And the
guys.
state, too.
The fact of the matter is,
You're
you
getting-
paid $26,408.
He
not
can
including
afford
your
it.
Testimony today, correct?
Yeah.
Not including your testimony yesterday, correct?
That's correct.
How much you getting paid for yesterday and today?
I charge $400 an hour based on an 8-hour day, not to exceed 8 hours.
All right, so about $2,400. I'm sorry, is that $3,200?
Yes, sir.
I told you I'm not good at math.
Oh shit, Bonnie, coming in for Pumpkin. Woo, the pumpkin party. That's what I'm talking about.
Emptied your wallet a little bit there. Sorry,
Thank you,
Doc.
Bonnie. I appreciate that.
You only make my wife mad. That's it.
The
Then you're in big trouble.
fact of the matter is, you were hired by the defendant back in
Trenda, get the hell in here. Where you
February
been?
of 06, correct?
Take Trenda to the back. Take her to the back right now.
Then, yes.
Get the wine.
Ultimately, you were hired by him to consult on this case, to look at the evidence, and to write a report, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's the report that I've been talking to you about today.
Yes, sir.
And you're still working for Mr. Spector. You're
Damn.
still in his...
So the doctor and Phil died of COVID complications around the same time, because I think maybe he died in 2021, but that's interesting.
employment.
Well, I'm working for his attorneys.
All right, working for his attorneys, the advocates on this case.
I think they're called attorneys.
And they're advocating a particular position, correct?
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, let's talk about that for just a quick second, Dr. DeMaio. I don't mean
These
to
guys.
digress, but you were here yesterday, and you may have been here on one other occasion listening to Dr. Lynn Harold testify, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and is there a reason that you were in the courtroom?
Well, yesterday, because they thought I was going to get on yesterday,
Okay, what about before that?
to listen to what she was testifying to.
And in fact, at the breaks, I mean, I was in here, I saw you at the breaks, you would huddle with Linda Kinney-Bodden about Lynn Harold's testimony during her cross-examination, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you would huddle with her during my direct examination, correct?
Well, I didn't really huddle with her as to the testimony. I mean, I just talked to her.
Thank you, Julie.
Actually, I don't think I discussed.
So in 2021, Phil died from COVID complications, and then a year later, Dr. DeMaio died of COVID
That's
complications.
the testimony.
You didn't give her questions to ask Dr. Harold on cross-examination.
No.
You weren't here to
CH,
help
thank
feed
you.
her
What's
any
up?
questions whatsoever.
Hope you're having
So
a good
the fact
Sunday.
that you were being paid a pretty hefty sum, $400 an hour is nothing to sneeze at. The fact that you
Sustain.
I'll withdraw. The fact that you were being paid by Mr. Spector to be here and listen to Lynn Harold's testimony had absolutely nothing to do with, according to you, helping Linda Kinney-Bodden in her cross-examination of the state's witnesses, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Because that, of course, would make you more like an advocate rather than an objective scientific expert, correct?
No, sir, it wouldn't.
I still need to watch this, dude. God, I wish there was more time in the day, but we're going to do this, and I think it'd be cool to actually do it with everyone, especially everyone that's on board with Murder Church in this trial who's been here for the long haul. We're, 6-7 months into this at this point in time, but yeah, Netflix has a show, Homicide Los Angeles, that the very first episode is about Phil Spector, and I mean, I'm all in.
If you were assisting Ms. Bodden in cross-examining a witness?
I would, okay. You're not an advocate, you're a consultant. So if I did give her information, questions, I would tell you. It's just that I didn't do it. And it's perfectly proper for me to tell her, you know, what she said is wrong. Why don't you ask her this question or that question? But I didn't do that.
Okay.
All right, at this point, we're going to take our recess for 15 minutes.
We're not done, I don't
Keep in
think.
mind your admonition will resume in 15 minutes.
Lord. Judge Diehard's going to let him get a break in here. Okay, hold on. We still got 2 minutes here.
This belongs to one lawyer. That lawyer will only question that witness, and that lawyer will only make the objections towards that witness.
Okay?
So whether or not Mr. Ford wants to object an argument and grounds or not is his decision because it's his witness.
Okay.
Okay, but there are two things that have been going on in, not in Mr. Dixon's examination, but in Mr. Jackson's. One, the court made it very clear. Counsel is not to yell at the witness. That just happened. Secondly, Mr. Jackson
Rosin's going to get up here and squeal a little bit.
editorializes many of his questions. He's a very skilled advocate, he's an experienced advocate, and he's a smart guy. It's not proper, and it shouldn't go on in this court. Because what it's doing is entertaining.
Chill your tone down just a little bit while you address Judge Diehard, you fucking cocksucker.
jurors. We're not here to entertain them.
I hate this
man's
dude
life
also.
is on the line.
Freeman's unaware.
And I
Rosin's
wanted to bring
my
it to the
least
court's
favorite
attention
attorney of
because I'm
his.
sitting here and listening, and I'm sure the court saw the expressions on my face. And I'm asking the court to put a stop to it. He shouldn't be yelling at the witness just like Mr. Cutler was cut down by the court when he started yelling at Ms. Ogdenhalter. And secondly, the editorialization should stop. He's a skilled advocate. He knows how to cross-examine. He knows how to directly examine. The defense team doesn't do that.
Okay, to respond, one, I don't think Mr. Jackson yelled. I disagree. He did not yell. As to whether or not you wish to object,
Look how mad he is, bro. Look at him. He's worked himself up into a hissy.
I make an assumption, and certainly there are things that could have been objected to.
And then Judge Diehard intervened every single time it got a little too contentious. Did he not? And to even compare that to what Cutler did in the beginning of this trial is insane, as Cutler was fighting the judge. All right?
The problem is, I don't interfere with the...
This judge's name is Larry Fiddler. He's the fucking man. He is the fairest judge I've seen yet since I've been doing this.
Sometimes a witness is allowed to run on for a specific reason. It may fit into what you're planning. I don't intersperse my own objections. And so without an objection, I don't rule. I agree there have been objectionable times or things that could have been objected to. I'm not going to interfere with your case. If you want to make an objection, make an objection.
It's not the substance of the questions. It's the editorialization and the way he introduces questions and sometimes the way he finishes off questions, using it as a bridge into the next question. It's not proper.
If you think there's something inappropriate, object, and I'll rule on it.
Very well.
Okay? Thank you. All right, we're in recess.
Yeah, stop making... This isn't a play. This isn't a movie set. All right? Calm the fuck down. All right, 57 minutes on the next round here. Yeah, I think that'll be right. That should be good. Let's do the spin. We'll watch that, and then we'll call it. We're still going to go another hour here. Let's get the spin going, folks. Good luck, everyone that's on this wheel right now. You're going to be getting the holy trinity of stickers. Let me turn the green screen off here so we can actually see what's happening. All right. Good luck, everyone. No whammies. Boom. That's a good-ass spin right there. That's a good-ass spin. Who's going to get that son of a bitch? Okay, let me see. Let me see who won that. I can't read my own writing from... Shiraz! Oh, always give her Shiraz, who was amazing. Shiraz has been a G around these parts for quite some time. Buzz Nation. Shiraz, congratulations. I don't know if she's in here this morning, but don't let her forget. Let her know if you see her in chats. I'm going to put her in the winner's circle right now. Again, as we're continuing a new wheel this morning, and everyone has been amazing. Everyone has been insane. So let me get her in here so I don't forget. As we know, my brain kind of sucks. Yes, here we go. I'm putting the 3 holy stickers, and that will make me remember that it is all 3 of them. Hell yes, everyone. Thank y'all so much. Let's keep rolling here for just a little while. Just hanging out for a bit.
Gun country.
We're not messing around.
Sober enough to know what I'm doing, and I'm drunk enough to really enjoy doing it.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to go here. I think we're going to continue on with Alan Jackson and DeMaio, and, this thing is spicy. Oh, let's rock.
Back on the record, all the parties are present. I don't see Mr. Dixon. Okay.
Mr. Dixon has set up.
All right, the jurors and alternates are present. You may proceed when ready.
Thank you. Dr. DeMaio, I want to turn again to your report, if you have it in front of you.
Yes.
There was an indication in your report, or you stated, and I think in your direct examination too, it would have been physically easier for Lana to have shot herself in the mouth than the temple. And I simply want you to explain that to me. What do you mean by that?
Essentially, she had some restriction of the motion from in her wrist.
That was a good one.
That
was a smooth one.
Bilateral fractures of her wrists in 2001.
Jim Leahy, favorite character of all time.
2002, she had some other minor injury. And if you look at the x-rays of the hands, the bones kind of have sort of a moth-eaten appearance. So you have to it's easier. And most people who kill themselves or shoot themselves try to...
Anybody that came through and didn't know, 1 o'clock today, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to put the link right here in the chat. I will be over on Mo in the Deep Ends channel. We're going to be watching, she's calling it the roast of the Susan Smith parole hearing that happened this week. This was one that I wasn't familiar with until this started coming around the bend again. And now I've kind of looked into what exactly happened. And I know a lot of old school true crimers knew this one pretty well. And yeah, we're going to dive in there. And it's going to be an interesting one. So make sure that you're following Mo in the Deep End, first of all. And the Buzz Nation, come over and show out in the chat today.
Easy. And for her, it would be easier to use both hands.
All right, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. Regarding her range of motion, you're aware, are you not, or are you aware of who Karen Luckett is? Luckett, I think.
Brooklyn Baker's in the house. What's up, man? Welcome in here.
You're talking about the medical records, how she's a bit improving. Yes.
Correct. Her
Yeah, she's
physical
improving.
therapist.
Right.
Karen Luckett was her physical therapist, correct?
Right, and she's improving, and she's getting there.
Right. And although it was a relatively severe, well, not relatively, I think by anybody's standard, it would be severe, correct?
Right, yes.
But you're indicating that she could
Another awesome channel also, Broken Baker.
No, I just said that.
Got familiar with him when he was covering the Sarah Boone trial.
It would be much more difficult for her, and then it's easier.
Had Mo on all the
Most
time.
People, when they'll do a thing like that, if they shoot themselves in the mouth, which she did, it's easier to use 2 hands than to use 1 hand.
Okay,
For the record, you had made the equivalent of putting a gun to your temple.
Thank you, Your Honor. With regard to that particular motion, you don't have any, there's nothing in the medical records to suggest that she couldn't, I mean, if she wanted to, that she couldn't have moved her wrist in the direction that I'm moving mine. As a matter of fact, the wrist stays relatively stable, correct?
You can stabilize your wrist, yes.
Okay.
It's just, I pointed out that it would be easier for her, that's all.
And of course, you're unaware of any medical defect that Mr. Spector had with either one of his hands or wrists?
No.
Yeah. You also indicated in your report that individuals shooting themselves in the mouth quite commonly use 2 hands. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. This is back to basic statistics, correct? When you use the word quite commonly, or maybe I should just ask you, what do you mean by quite commonly?
It's not uncommon for them. There are no statistics on this thing.
Right.
It's just that if you see enough of the cases, you find out.
That's how I envisioned it too, when I was kind of just given a different version or another scenario of the possibility of what could have happened that night with Lana Clarkson. And yeah, if she was going to, in a frantic moment, of saying fuck you to Phil Spector, who has her held hostage essentially at this point in time, and she already was, suicidal. She takes the gun away. if that happened, again, I've been opining on different possibilities, and I want you to do the same in the chat there. But I also made it clear what I kind of think is happening here with Dr. Vincent DeMaio. But if you're going to do something like this, that is exactly how I would envision it, right? You have the gun, it's pointed to you, again, in the mouth, towards your face, and you're going to hold it with both hands, and both thumbs, in my mind, would push the trigger in.
Significant number of these.
If that's how it happens.
Both hands. It's easier.
Okay, so that was just something that you put in the report because you happen to have it off the top of your head.
I have what?
Happen to have it off the top of your head.
It's my experience.
Okay.
So.
Again, not based on any scientific literature that you've read, but your experiences yourself.
Yes.
Okay. You also indicated that in this particular case, the muzzle of the weapon was in the mouth, as indicated by the soot and powder in the mouth,
yes,
and the forceful ejection from the mouth of the caps on her upper front teeth, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, that statement is, in fact, based on medical science, correct?
No, that's based on the observations at the time of autopsy, yes,
Okay.
sir.
And, Doctor, those observations include the scientific observation and recovery of soot and powder and unburned powder particles from her palate and throat and mouth area and mucosa, correct?
Yes, sir.
It also is based on scientific observations that there was no, in
Spector
fact,
pick here.
sooting or stippling on the outside of her mouth,
Yes, sir.
on the outside of her lips as well.
Yes, sir.
It was based on the scientific determination that there was...
Chris Stewart just walked in the door. He kicked them motherfucking doors right in. Boom! Came in here and said, "What's up, Murder Church? What's up, Chris? Hope you're having a good weekend, dude."
dentin material, and I'm using that in the broadest terminology. I don't know what the actual terminology may be. Tooth material may be a better word. Impacted on the back of the front sight, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so these medical
Dude, it's been spicy
and
this morning, Chris.
scientific findings led you to agree with the conclusion that, in fact, the muzzle of the gun was inside the plane of her front teeth.
Yes.
So you did not use any statistics to come to that conclusion. This, in fact, was based on medical science, correct?
It's based on the observations, yes, sir.
And some of those observations included the fact that the teeth were broken outward and not inward, correct?
Yes, sir.
You would expect if there were teeth broken inward, one performing the autopsy might in fact find those teeth and recover them and make a note of it, correct?
Yes, sir.
That was not the case here.
Actually, the teeth weren't broken. It was the caps that were broken.
Okay, my mistake. The caps on the teeth, I should say, the
Yes,
tooth
sir.
material. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I said
Okay.
yes.
Thank you, Doctor. Then you indicated that, quote, the blast-like effect of the gun discharging in the mouth hurled the fragments of the dental caps across a foyer and onto a staircase. Can you explain what you were talking about when you indicated that?
Essentially, when you fire the weapon, you produce high pressure coming out, greater than 5,000 pounds per square inch. The expanding turbulent gases pushed backward and stripped the caps from the teeth, fragmented them, and ejected them across the room.
Is it your testimony, Doctor, that the muzzle flip, do you know what I mean when I use the term muzzle flip?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it your testimony, Doctor, that the muzzle flip of the gun did not cause those teeth to become, or that tooth material to become fragmented and ejected across the room?
Yes, sir. That is my sole testimony.
Your testimony is that it was, in fact, the gases that
Hit the caps, right.
I'm sorry, yeah, the gases, to lack of a better word, use your phrase, hit the caps and knock those caps backward.
Yes, sir.
All right. And that's based on the muzzle pressures that you found to exist in a .38 Colt Cobra.
Yes, sir.
All right. You're aware that there was, in fact, dental material found on the rear ramp of the front sight.
Objection. Vague as to what,
I'm sorry.
that's vague, dental material, natural, unnatural.
Well, just the dental material, I think the important thing is that it was found on the site for the purpose of the question. If I'm wrong, then perhaps we'll need some further clarification. Are you aware of that, Doctor?
Yes, it's actually tooth material, not caps.
Been a lot of teeth
Found on the gun.
talk, Darren.
And of course,
And circle back around to the teeth
conceivable
arguments
that if, in fact,
every few murder churches.
the muzzle were to flip backward based on the recoil of the gun, that muzzle could knock off the caps and impact the underlying dental material or dentin into that rear ramp of the front side, correct?
No.
That's not possible.
No, but let me explain. If the gun had gone back and hit the teeth while the caps were on, then you would have gotten cap material embedded in the gun. And instead you got tooth material. And the reason you got the tooth material was by the time the front sight got to the front teeth, the caps were gone.
Of course, you're saying that based on that testimony, I'll get to a little more of this in just a second, but since you brought it up, I might as well address a little bit of it now. You're saying that the recoil of the gun was subsequent to the gases expanding in her mouth and knocking the dental material out, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you're aware of the basic precept of for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when the hammer falls and strikes that primer, and the primer begins to burn, that primer then ignites the propellant in the ammunition, correct?
Yes.
And that bullet begins to travel because of pressure buildup in the cylinder and then subsequent pressure buildup in the barrel.
Yes.
Begins to send that projectile or that missile down the barrel and then on downrange, correct?
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's, from a layperson, that's a basic representation of how a bullet is fired, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the bullet begins to move when
Yes.
the gases are building up behind it and those gases send it out, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the bullet is out of the gun before the gases are out of the gun.
Yes, sir.
The bullet has
Not quite. It doesn't work that way.
All right.
Actually, what happens is a certain percentage, maybe a quarter to a third of the gases exit before the bullet.
Okay. Assuming even that,
Yes,
the
sir.
majority of the gases are actually propelling the bullet downrange, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the bullet begins to move. In other words, there's an action that begins
Yes, sir.
inside the cylinder and down the barrel, correct?
Yes, sir.
And meanwhile, the gases have not escaped the gun.
That's correct, sir.
You indicated that the horizontal or upward orientation of the gun was of, quote, absolutely no significance, as both such orientations are seen in suicides. Is that correct?
No, I said that in most instances, the gun is pointed upward in suicides, but you also get suicides where it's horizontal.
So, like,
and so,
they
you
want it to
know,
go through the
this is one of
upper
these
to the
things
brain,
that's
right?
not really important. Most times,
You know, that's a
it's
good point, actually, because, like, again, everyone was intoxicated and highly inebriated and fucking wasted between Phil and Lana Clarkson. I think that does come into play to an extent to the argument that he's making, but, you know, that's a good point in that is if someone wanted to kill themselves and, you know, not just do damage to themselves and still be alive to suffer the consequences after the fact, you know, if you're going to, this one is definitely going to be demonetized. Whatever. Going a little too deep into that. But if you're going to be holding it like this, right, again, so this is the way I was kind of talking about earlier, straightforward. But what he was just mentioning would be upward like this, right? Because you want that bullet to go up and destroy the brain so you were gone. You know, the one... She ended up dying, of course, but, you know, if you're going to be shooting straight back, you know, it severed her spinal cord, and I guess the possibility of not dying would be less likely, at least in my opinion, at least thinking about it.
upward. Occasionally, it's
Would be why most people would do the upward
horizontal. There's no
fashion.
significance.
All right. My question is, did you say the horizontal, well, quote, whether the gun was oriented in a horizontal or upward plane when discharged is of absolutely no significance, as both such orientations are seen in suicides.
That's what I just said a second ago.
All right, actually, you corrected me and said that's not what you said. I'm asking you, is that your direct quote?
Sustained, just
Sure. Is that what I just read, a direct quote from your report?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you're aware that that sort of orientation, front to back, the kind of orientation that we have here, is
Ticks are
also
getting
seen
worse.
in homicides.
No. We're talking.
The ticks
something
get
about
worse
the
when he's angry.
Upward angle.
I'm aware of that.
You won't like me when I'm
It's also
ticking.
seen in homicides, correct?
Sure, it's seen in homicide.
All right. Yet in your report, you ended that sentence by saying it's
Somebody was a
absolutely
ticking
no
time bomb.
significance, as both such orientations are seen in suicides, correct?
That's right.
And the second half of that postulate would be both such orientations are seen in homicides as well, correct?
Yes, sir, but that's understood. Since I said it's of no significance, I said it doesn't make any difference in deciding whether it's a homicide or suicide, whether it's pointed upward or pointed backwards. So I said, you don't have to consider that. That's what I said.
Why didn't you write that it's of absolutely no significance, as both such orientations are seen in homicides?
Because I didn't know you were going to ask me this question. The reason I wrote it that way is it's obvious. If you say a thing is not significant, then that's it. Then you close the door on it. Forget about it. And what I'm saying is whether it's horizontal or upward, it's of no significance into suicides because it can occur, you know, which means that I'm not even going to consider it. And I didn't consider it. It's of no significance.
All right. And you could have written, Dr. DeMaio, that it's of no significance because that sort of orientation is seen in both homicides and suicides. But you didn't write that, did you?
No, because it wouldn't make any difference. If I wrote homicides, it's the same. I'd say the same. What I'm saying, it's of no significance.
Calm down.
It's of no significance.
You're getting very excited.
Homicides either. So if it's no significance in suicides, it's not going to be a significance in homicides.
So another way of saying that, Dr. DeMaio, if I hear your testimony correctly, is this sort of orientation, the front to back, and the orientation that you described.
No, not the front to back, the upward trajectory.
I'm sorry, I wasn't finished. The front to back, slightly upward, basically midline. Is that close?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Found in the exhibit, the head exhibit that you were shown by Mr. Plord, that is consistent.
You got to keep your cool here,
with
man.
the trajectory.
Don't let Jackson get
in
you
a homicide, correct?
all rattled, which has already
Sure.
happened.
Okay. You also said that anyone shooting Lana Clarkson would have to have been directly in front of her, based on the front to back trajectory of the wound, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Describe that for me.
You have to have the hand in front.
Okay.
Because here's the mouth. It's got to be that oriented.
Okay. So according to your testimony, the shooter would have to be standing directly, basically straddling directly in front of Miss Clarkson to have fired the weapon. Is that what you're saying?
And he then added, I think you made your objection before he added, is that your testimony? So the objection is overruled.
Is that what you're saying, Dr.
No,
DeMaio?
that's not my testimony.
Okay, what is your testimony?
That the person, that if she was shot by someone, the person would have to be in front of her. That's not straddling.
Okay, did you write in your report, anyone shooting Lana Clarkson would have to have been directly in front of her,
Right.
based on the front to back trajectory of the
You
wound?
have to be directly in front.
What do you mean by directly in front of her?
Do you want me to demonstrate?
Sure.
Here we go. Now they're fine. Now we're doing it.
Are you going to demonstrate on me?
First, I need, are you armed?
This shit's getting real now, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're taking the gloves off. Judge just asked him if he's armed out here.
Hey, motherfucker.
That's the first best question.
Huh? Hold
This is
on.
gun country.
Sit down.
Even the ghoul was laughing.
The thing is we know that the gun is here, and the person's in front of her. Now, if you turn this way...
Oh, he hit him. He wanted to touch him.
In front of her. This way, you're still in front. You're not to the side or from the back. It's in front of her. I mean, I didn't say directly in front. It's in front. I mean, the shot has to come from the front.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. And let me get back to your report.
Now, you're all right now, aren't you?
Yo, Kayla, what's up? Morning.
You may.
Even missing a good one, man. This one's been spicy this morning. It's been good. Morning.
Dr. DeMaio, if you would turn to page 2 of your report,
Yes, sir.
and be patient with me for just a second. I'm going to try to find the exact words. If you'll look at the third full paragraph, beginning the second sentence, would you please read that second sentence beginning with anyone?
Anyone shooting her would have to have been directly in front of her based on the front-to-back trajectory of the wound. Thus, one would
So he did say directly.
expect copious amounts.
That's the only thing I'm asking.
Okay.
Did you, in fact, indicate in your report that the shooter would have to be directly in front of Ms. Clarkson?
Right.
Okay. And you just demonstrated
And you literally just said, I didn't say directly, I just said in front of her.
the jurors that that is, in fact, not true. The shooter could have been to the left, to the right, further to the right, depending upon the orientation of Ms. Clarkson's head.
But that's in front of her.
Okay, but not directly in front of her, Dr. DeMaio.
To me, it's directly in front of her.
Okay, so using Mr. Dixon. Oh, man. Sorry.
Come on,
Using Mr. Dixon
come
as
on.
an example- Using Mr. Dixon as an example, Dr. DeMaio, you would agree that, for instance, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Dixon, could you turn your chair to the right just a little bit, to your left, rather? If, in fact, I was standing here and pointing this way, this could be considered directly in front of her, as you see, as you define
The
directly.
head would have to be facing you,
I
right?
understand. If his head is facing slightly.
Morning, Melissa.
I'm using the head as the orientation.
Okay, and therefore, based on this orientation, this would be consistent with your findings?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dixon. May the record reflect that I was, I don't know how to describe that, I was
You were offset from Mr. Dixon.
to his right.
Correct.
Thank you.
Not directly, actually, I would say.
You read Dr. Harold's report, or reports in notes, indicating that in her expert opinion, based on her forensic examination of the evidence, of all of the evidence that she looked at, that in her opinion, the head of Lana Clarkson was off-center, slightly to the right. You read that, correct?
I don't have the report in front of me. I can't tell
It
you.
doesn't misstate her testimony. She testified to that.
Okay.
The question was the report. There's nothing in the report that says.
I'm sorry. You know what?
Testify to that.
The
Mr.
objection-
Plord is correct.
There it
Mr. Plord
is.
is correct. Let me rephrase that.
Same.
Lord's like,
My
you're damn
mistake,
right, I'm
Mr.
right.
It's been a long trial. Taking
so
to the-
long.
taking her testimony into consideration, are you aware that she testified that in her expert opinion, Lana Clarkson's head would have been, instead of being midline, would have been slightly offset to the right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You're aware of that. All I'm doing is
Okay, I'm
establishing
aware
the
of it now.
foundation.
Okay, right.
Okay. And you indicated on direct examination when Mr. Plord was going over the trajectory in that head, that prosthetic head that we've seen, you agreed, as a matter of fact, I think Mr. Plord asked you, and you agreed that the head could have been in any number of positions because it's the bullet to the skull relationship that you as a medical examiner are interested in, not the head to body relationship.
Well, you can't, right, you cannot determine the head-to-body relationship.
Okay.
So, right.
And in fact, you're aware that the blood on the chair, you examined the photographs of the chair,
Yes, sir.
you examined the photographs of the purse,
Yes, sir.
you examined photographs, or may have even examined the actual slip dress that Ms. Clarkson was wearing.
I saw it, yes, sir.
You examined the jacket, Ms. Clarkson's jacket.
Yes, sir.
All right. And you saw photos of how Ms. Clarkson was situated in that chair when she was found dead.
Yes, sir.
Look
All
at
right.
how much more relaxed his face is when he's chewing on his glasses.
You're aware that the blood
Like it's like he's
on the chair.
it's going a little bit, but like his like cheek is like twingy, but it's like way
was
less.
on the right side, not the
As
left.
soon as I say it, it's just going crazy.
Right, when that was the draining blood.
I thought that was like
the
helping
draining
him.
blood.
Right.
There was no major blood stains on the left side of the chair.
Right.
And in fact, there was no blood spatter found on the left side of the
No,
chair.
he still
correct?
seems incredibly
Okay. There was
twitchy.
blood spatter that was in fact indeed found on the right side of the chair
Yeah.
and on the back of the, this is always hard to describe, Dr. DeMaio, bear with me, the back of the arm of the chair, the
Yes.
portion of the chair that's vertical.
Yes, but wasn't there also secondary blood spatter in that area, so that may not have been primary?
It may have been, correct. It may have been secondary. There was also some primary blood spatter found in that area, correct? It was not satellite.
It was interpreted as primary. Yes, sir.
According to Dr. Lynn Harold's testimony.
Yes, sir.
All right. And none of that was on the left side.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, the handbag or the purse that was on her shoulder had blood spatter on it as well that was not the subject, or not the product, rather, of satellite spatter, but was interpreted as high-velocity impact spatter,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And of course, there was tooth material that was found on her abdomen, correct?
Yeah, on the front of her body, yes.
Right, and on that abdomen, I'm sorry, on that, the slip dress, that was to the right of center, sitting on her abdomen area, about where I'm pointing right now, which is about mid-abdomen area, to the right side of my midline, a couple of inches, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Or how long Dr. DeMaio is going to be on the stand here. Is he going to give Dr. Penny a run for his money? What's that one lady's name? That one awesome doctor? Fuck, I forgot her name now, but she was up there forever too.
Paragraph in your report. And I think you may have echoed this in your testimony, Dr. DeMaio.
Overruled this time. I haven't. Just overruled. You may proceed.
You indicated
Just fucking
that one
stops
would
what he literally
expect
just said.
copious amounts of blood, tissue, and tooth
literally.
fragments to have been deposited on the shooter.
Yes, sir.
This was not the case in regard to Mr. Spector's jacket,
Stretch!
correct?
Yes, sir.
For Sunday!
You've already indicated, and I think I asked you, well, let me ask it this way. You're basing that opinion on the fact that, given what you described as this explosion in the mouth, that you would expect to find more blood on his jacket than was found if he were the shooter, correct?
You would expect to find blood, tissue, gunshot residue, and also on the sleeve. Yes, sir.
All right. And you're aware of who Paul Kish is?
He's the criminalist who, with Dr. Lee, was at the scene and examined it. Right.
All right. Or at least that's your understanding.
That's my understanding.
And he's a, matter of fact, hired by the defense team in this case.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's why. That's from the report.
All right. Are you aware that he published an article entitled "The Absence of Evidence is Not Evidence of Absence"? And that was in 1996 in the Journal of Forensic Identification.
Yes, sir.
All right. Isn't it true that, according to Dr. Kish, or Mr. Kish, expert opinions should never be based on what one would expect to be present, but rather they should be based on what is physically present? Isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
That is again, I'll use the word, again, a hallmark kind of expert testimony and expert examinations. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. You have to look at what's presently there, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. You did, in fact, look at different areas of Lana Clarkson's jacket, her
Yes.
right samplings from her right shoulder, her left shoulder, correct?
Yes.
And you also looked at some samplings of her buttons.
Yes.
I want to talk for just a second before we get to all of those things and your determinations based on those. I want to go back to your direct examination about the gases in the mouth.
Yes.
Now, you've indicated that there was this, and I think yesterday you said an explosion, and you did your hands out like this, correct?
Yes, sir.
An explosion of blood and tissue and metallic particles and GSR and everything else coming out of the mouth when that gas expanded in the mouth, correct?
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, you described it as like a jet engine, correct?
I don't remember, but I'll accept that.
You said it's like dropping an SUV in someone's mouth.
No, that was in reference to when I was talking about this 5,000 pounds per square inch.
Right, and that's what I'm asking.
Yes.
With regard to the gases, you've indicated to this jury that the gases inside Lana Clarkson's mouth were some 5,080 pounds per square inch, correct?
Well, actually greater, but
All right, greater than 5,080.
yes, sir.
All right. And when in doing so, you referred to muzzle pressure
Right.
and studies that have been done about muzzle pressure.
Yes, sir.
What is muzzle pressure, doctor?
Okay. It's not muzzle pressure per se. It is the pressure of the gas coming out the muzzle. The pressure of the gas coming out the muzzle is, with the ordinary 38 special 2-inch barrel, about 5,080 pounds per square inch.
Okay, so your testimony, if this pin represents the barrel of the gun,
Yes, sir.
and this eraser is the muzzle end,
Right.
your testimony is that the muzzle pressure is the pressure here, where my fist is, outside the barrel of the gun.
And that's the pressure of the gas coming out the muzzle.
Right, if my fist represents gas coming out of the muzzle, all right? That's the best I can do, Doc.
Well, it wouldn't be that,
Interesting.
okay, it wouldn't be that far out. As soon as the gas begins to come out of the muzzle, it then begins to expand, and then, of course, the pressure drops down.
Drastically drops, doesn't it?
Well, of course it's going to drastically drop down.
Have you now finished your answer, or do you want to add?
I'm finished now, Your Honor.
Okay. As a matter of fact, you know what Boyle's Law is.
I'm a little far out of physics, but essentially you're talking about expansion
Under pressure.
of gases.
Okay, let me see if I can get it right. Pressure times volume equals a constant.
Pushing down on
And
me.
what's happened
Pushing
is when the
down on
gas
you.
comes out, and it begins to expand as it tends to depress. And by doing that, it ejects material out the nose and mouth.
Right. All right, that's your testimony.
Yes.
We'll get to that in just a second. I'm still talking about muzzle pressure and this 5,000 or 5,000 plus PSI that you're
Right.
talking about. When firearms manufacturers perform muzzle pressure tests, they are specifically doing so in determination of what kind of steel, the alloys, and the shape of that a barrel should take to withstand the high pressures inside the muzzle, inside the barrel, correct?
You're wrong. Sorry about that.
Isn't it true? Oh, no, you don't have to be sorry.
No.
Isn't it true, Doctor, that in fact, muzzle pressure, as soon as...
Have you finished your answer?
No, I hadn't finished.
All right, go ahead and finish your answer.
What the manufacturers specify and measure is the pressure in the chamber. And so they drill a hole in the chamber, and then they put a sensor device, and then you fire the ammunition. And that tells you chamber pressure. They don't measure muzzle pressure because they're not interested in that, because by the pressure in the chamber maybe, like, is much higher, 15 to 20,000 pounds per square inch. And so by the time it gets to the muzzle, it's already dropped to 5,000. Manufacturers have their specifications for chamber pressure.
There's also specific calculations for muzzle pressure, isn't there, Doctor?
I've never heard anyone talk about it, only chamber pressure.
Would it surprise you to know that muzzle pressure is defined by a formula taking into account chamber volume, chamber pressure, and barrel volume,
Right.
which will give you muzzle pressure.
Right.
And it's the pressure inside this tiny little orifice or this tiny little cylinder called a barrel. That's the high pressure, correct?
Yeah, the high pressure is in the chamber. That's what the manufacturer does for specifications, because that's when the highest pressure is. Once the bullet begins to move down the barrel, the pressure decreases rapidly from around 15 to 20,000 to about 5,000 if it's a 2-inch barrel, and if it's a 4-inch barrel, it's dropping down to 2,000. The manufacturer is principally interested in the pressure in the chamber, and that's what he uses to draw his specifications up when he constructs his loads of powder in a cartridge.
All right, Doctor, if I get this correct, if I get your testimony correctly, you've got the chamber of the gun, which is relatively small. It's where the cartridge is loaded, correct?
Yes, sir.
Ready to be fired.
Yes, sir.
And that chamber pressure can get exceedingly high. Like you said, 15 to 20,000 PSI, correct?
For 38 special, yes.
All right. As soon as that gas goes into the barrel is a lot larger in volume than, in fact, the chamber is.
Yes.
Therefore, the pressure immediately decreases based on Boyle's law.
Yes, sir.
The volume increases, the pressure goes down, correct?
That's correct, sir.
And as soon as that gas leaves the barrel, and we're talking about ambient barometric pressure now, basically atmospheric pressure, as soon as that gas leaves the barrel, once again, boom, the pressure drops.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You indicated on direct examination that you looked at some photographs of Ms. Clarkson's tongue, correct?
Yes, sir.
And again, you were talking about this 5,000 PSI, but in reality, that is a misstatement because there was not 5,000 plus PSI in her mouth. There was 5,000 PSI in the barrel of the weapon, correct?
No, sir. It was 5,000 as it exits the muzzle.
And as soon as...
Actually, as the farther back you go in the barrel, the higher the pressure.
As soon as it comes out...
Dr. didn't allow the witness machine. Okay, you still got more to go on your answer?
No.
As soon as, thank you, Your Honor, may I? As soon as the gas comes out of the barrel, that pressure has dropped. So in fact, in the volume of her head space, we're not talking about 5,000 PSI. That pressure has radically dropped, and the gases have expanded.
Yes, but it's still destructive because using your contention then, if you shoot somebody in the head with a 12-gauge shotgun, then I'm imagining the brain being all over the ceiling, the brain being all over the walls, and the brain being on the floor. Your head is not designed for 5,000 or 4,000 or 3,000 or 2,000. If so, I'll drop a 1,000-pound weight on your toe, and I bet you your toe is going to be in a little bad condition.
That's a great point, Dr. DeMaio. If there were 5,000 PSI, if there was 5,000 plus pounds per square inch of pressure in her head would have been pulverized. It would have blown completely apart.
Actually, no. What would happen was it would have blown out. What happens is when you have intraoral wounds like that, what usually happens is you get tears radiating from the corners of the mouth, the eyes, and then the cheeks may split. That's what usually happens.
Did you see photographs of Ms. Clarkson's mouth, eyes, lips, inner oral mucosa, etc.?
Yes.
Were her lips split apart?
No, because we're talking with, you said that was a different question you asked.
All I'm asking is, I'm asking a different question now. Were her lips split apart?
No, sir.
Were her nostrils split apart?
No, sir.
Were her eyes bulging?
No.
Did you see tears on the inside of her cheeks?
She had some lacerations on the inside. Okay, no, sir.
All right. You indicated that the tongue that was bruised on the left side.
Yes, sir.
I think in your direct testimony you said you didn't like to use this word often, but you did it. It was impossible for the muzzle of the gun, the end of the barrel of the gun, to have caused that bruise, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Have you ever bitten your tongue, Doc?
That's different. When you bite your tongue, you're putting the pressure down on a sharp edge. That's how you eat. There's a difference between that, but even if you have bitten your tongue, and I'm sure you have, you don't get a bruise, a big bruise on your tongue. What you're doing with your biting is you're cutting it with your teeth. This is a blunt force injury. Blunt force injuries are not cutting or biting injuries.
So you do agree that, in fact, this was a blunt force trauma to the
This is a
tongue?
blunt force trauma due to the gas expanding, fracturing the upper palate, and jamming the tongue against the skeletal structure.
The gas that we've now learned is not at 5,000 PSI, correct?
It's 5,000 pounds per square inch when it exits the barrel.
Right, when it's
But,
in the...
I mean, you know, and everybody knows that gas expands because all you had to do was look at the photograph of the gun being fired and you notice how that gas cloud was a foot in diameter in atmosphere, and where there was no restriction.
But doctor, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, yeah, never mind.
To suggest to this jury
Never mind.
that the pressure in her mouth, in the volume of her headspace, was 5,000 psi, that is incorrect if we're trying to get very accurate about this, correct?
No, actually, it is correct. It's 5,000 pounds when it exits the barrel.
And what is the exact pressure inside Miss Clarkson's mouth?
Objection made as to where.
Overruled. You may answer.
The question is impossible to answer, because the only way to find this would be to stick guns in people's mouths, put pressure gauges, and then shoot them.
So-
and for somehow, I don't think your office would appreciate people being killed this way.
So to answer the question, Dr. DeMaio, to use your words, it is impossible to answer what the pressure inside her mouth was because you don't know the volume of her mouth, which under Boyle's law dictates the pressure, correct?
It's not that simple, even with your, if you knew the volume. Because what's happening is, as the gas begins to expand, it will also begin to expand, rushing out the nostrils and the mouth. So what will happen is, you'll get 5,000, and then it'll begin to drop, and it'll drop not only because of expansion, but because the gas is going out the nostril and mouth. And so so the only way you could ever do measurements like that would be to literally shoot people in the mouth.
And saving that experiment, let's assume we're not going to do that experiment. I don't think we'll get away with it. You
Can't do that one live here.
to
So
what the pressure
I'll use the
in her
bathroom. Be right
mouth
back,
was
guys.
once the gas left the barrel, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you,
But
doctor.
from doing autopsies, one knows that that pressure produces severe injuries and produces fractures.
I want to talk a little bit about what you said you expected to find on Mr. Spector's jacket. You've already said that you are not a backspatter expert, correct?
No, I said that I was only interested in backspatter coming from the body and going out, not calculating angles and things like that.
Can you tell me what Stokes' law is, please?
No, I can't.
Have any idea what it is?
No.
So you would have no idea how Stokes' law acts. And
Well, why
assume
don't you
for
just-
purposes of my question that it's a law of physics, all right?
Okay, I'm sure you'll tell it to
I'll
me.
be right back. Gypsy's
George
got to go to
Stokes,
the bathroom also.
1852.
That's nice. Go ahead.
The law of physics that dictates how fluid travels through a viscous material like, for instance, air. That sound
Okay.
familiar?
Vaguely. It sounds like second-year physics in college.
High school, actually. But that's been a while. Do you have any idea how Stokes' law plays into high-velocity backspatter as it's as blood, for instance, and let's use high-velocity blood, as it is applied, as a high-energy force is applied to it? Can you tell me how that
No.
plays into it?
Blood is a particle. You deliver kinetic energy to it and deliver velocity, it's going to move. It's going to move whether it's a motor vehicle or it's going to droplet of blood.
Do you have any idea what the phrase terminal velocity means?
Yeah, it's the final velocity when the a bullet impacts.
I'm sorry, I should have been more specific. It can have different meanings. In physics, terminal velocity. Do you know what it means? Not in ballistics.
I
but
would
physics.
assume it's the same thing, but just not applying in a more general way.
Okay. Would it sound correct to you if I told you that terminal velocity is the maximum speed under the laws of physics that an item can reach based on gravity in the world that we live in? the maximum speed. Does that sound right?
That would sound about right.
All right. Does it sound right, and does this remind you of either your college days or high school days, if I told you that Stokes' law is basically a surface area to mass ratio, and it's defined by a coefficient of drag? Doctor, let me finish. You'll get a chance. How far an item can travel through air based on that coefficient of drag, based on its surface area to mass ratio, and the effects of gravity. Does any of that sound familiar?
It doesn't, but what sounds familiar, when I did my experiments and put a gun against a person's head and pulled the trigger, I got my face, my glasses, and my upper part were covered by material that was ejected from the body. Now, the body probably didn't know Stokes' laws, but it knows that when you have a contact wound and the gas goes into the body, it blows stuff back on you. And it blew in my face, it blew on my glasses, and it blew on, luckily, the gown, in which case I had to go and take a shower to get the pieces of the body off me. So I don't know the scientific law, but I know what happens when you put a gun against the head and you pull a trigger.
And of course, you're talking about a lot of particulate matter, and I don't think anybody's taken issue, Doctor, with the idea that tissue and materials can fly backward. All right?
And blood, too.
All right.
Because, again, I don't know the law, but I've gone to scenes where people have put shotguns like in their head, covered every wall surface with brain. I've seen people put guns in their mouth, .357 magnums, and blown part of the head off. And yes, I don't know the law, but I know what the effects of putting a gun in your mouth are. And I've seen the effects hundreds of times. And you don't have to know the law to know when the blood comes back and sprays all over you and kills you.
What size blood are you talking about, Doctor?
You can have both macro and micro particles if you use the German criteria.
What is the farthest distance, according to your expert opinion, what is the furthest distance that sub-millimeter sized particulate matter blood can travel?
What size particles?
Sub-millimeter. From 0.9 to 0.1.
We know that with animal experiments, these particles can travel for 4 feet, with cases of it going up to 2.5 millimeters, which is roughly 7 feet.
You mean 2?
I got it, fajitas. I heard it. We back.
0.5 meters.
Oh, did I say? Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
said millimeters.
Oh, I'm sorry. So that would equal about 7 feet. Then we know with a .22 it can go 6 feet.
You're saying that sub-millimeter particles
Yes.
can travel 6 feet through the air?
Yes.
All right. Are you aware of studies and publications in the scientific community, some done by your colleagues on this case, Stuart James, Paul Kitsch, Henry Lee, all of whom have stated, specifically, Dr. DeMaio, that sub-millimeter sized particles, or what's considered mist-like particles, based on Stokes' law, can travel a maximum of about 2 to 3 feet, and in some laboratory conditions, theoretically, about 4 feet. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware that they have, but it doesn't mean anything because when you shoot living animals, and when people, this is what you get. These are the results. They were not shooting living animals, and these other distances in 6 or 7 are people. So this is not a theoretical, practical thing. This is not a theoretical thing, shooting sponges. This is shooting living animals and shooting people, and the blood goes that far.
So if the blood knows that it came from a sponge, it will travel one distance, but if the blood knows that it came from a live person, for instance, it'll travel a different distance based on physics.
Well,
Overruled.
sponges are not built like people. Sponges do not have blood pressure. Sponges do not have a resistance. Sponges do not have the characteristics of skin or tissue or bone. And the thing is, it doesn't matter what a sponge does. It's what a person does. And these are scientific experiments done on living creatures. It overrules the sponge sponge. Sorry about that.
And it overruled. Oh, you don't have to apologize to me. You might want to apologize to George Boyle. I'm sorry, George Stokes. Let me ask you a different question, Dr. Mayo. You said that sponges don't have blood pressure. So now are we to believe that your testimony is that it's the blood pressure that makes blood travel further?
No. It's not the blood pressure, but the blood is in blood vessels. Look, a sponge is not a person. You can shoot sponges until the cows come home. What you have to do is you have to shoot this research done in Germany is on living creatures. And what it found was that and what it states is the sponge results are not valid. And they have observations also on living people showing it's not valid. And if you go to scenes and you start doing your measurements, you will find out that blood does go farther. People are not sponges. Sponges are not people. The sponge experiments are nice for demonstrating and teaching the principles.
You heard it first here. People are not sponges. And sponges are not.
But they are not real.
You're aware, Dr. DeMaio, that in that study, when Karger et al. Indicated that backspatter from a suicide victim went 6 feet, they indicated exactly that. Backspatter in total, not mist-like spatter. You're aware of that, correct?
Yes, but you're not talking about mist-like spatter in this case.
All I'm asking you is whether you're aware that in Karger, and those findings in that one single paper that you're relying on, indicated that backspatter could go 6 feet, correct? Not indicating the size of it. You're aware of that?
That's correct.
Right.
I'm going to finish.
Let him finish his answer.
And you're talking about Dr. Karger, who's an MD, and his institute. It's the only person to do valid experiments. And just because it's one experiment, and just because you don't like the results, it's still a valid experiment.
I'm going to write that down, Sheila.
And the other things shooting sponges are not. Unless you're trying someone for murdering a sponge, these are the valid.
So after thousands upon thousands of pages of articles dedicated to applying Stokes' law to submillimeter particulate matter in backspatter cases, after experiment after experiment after experiment, after your colleagues, not just any colleagues, but people with PhDs who spend their life studying these laws that you don't even know, doctor, you're saying that all of that is invalidated by a German guy who shot a cow in the temple.
Yes, because he did valid experiments published in international journals.
So I make that work.
I know you don't like the results.
I didn't say I didn't like the results, doctor.
These results overrule that. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
It's like the scientists all thought the world was flat.
Oh, God.
Then Columbus comes around and finds out it isn't. You mean we should disregard that and keep the world flat because it was only one Italian guy sailing for the Spanish queen? No. These are the valid. It goes further. If you go to scenes, which, by the way, your criminalist admitted that she didn't go to scenes of suicides and saw this blood back.
I'm hoping, doctor, that you have begun the process of publishing widely to the scientific community that you, in fact, Dr. DeMaio, have found the holy grail of backspatter, and that you and Dr. Carver
are to the form of the question.
I have a three-way dance in a minute.
Have you let any of your friends and colleagues know that they've been wrong this whole time?
It's in my book, if they bother. Look, you don't...
Haven't you read my book? Hasn't everyone in this field of all things read my book? Are you kidding me? If they would have read my book, they would know this.
I mean, this is not hard to find. All you do is you get on the computer, you get into a medical library, top backspatter, and within 30 seconds, you will get all these articles. It's not really hard. And, you know, if they haven't got them, I don't know what to say, but these are the only valid research experiments. That's it.
You're certainly not suggesting to these jurors, you were looking at the jurors, you're not suggesting that they should go on the internet and do any research.
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay,
I mean,
good.
yeah, they're not supposed to be doing it, you know,
Yeah.
hopefully.
They just are here to rely on your testimony, at least in part, correct?
Well, you could enter these into the records and distribute them to the jurors.
Well, actually, that's up for the judge. That's up for the judge to decide what's distributed to the jurors. All I'm asking you is, you're relying on Carger and only Carger, because that, in your mind, is the only valid experiment, correct?
It's not only,
He's going to answer that. The objection's overruled. You may
it's
answer.
not only in my mind. These studies were published in 2 peer-reviewed medical journals. There have been no opposition to them, and some of the quotes they have go back to the 19th century. They're all in German, unfortunately, but they do. And these were done at institutes. Let's see. Oh, these were done at recognized institutes in Germany, and this is the leading edge of science in this field.
When was that published?
The first article was published in 1996.
Yeah, these two are tired of each other. I wonder if there's going to be more
1997,
past this video for the next episode.
And the last article in 2002.
And you're aware that a lot of
Yeah,
the
you can
other
hear the
articles about from
kind of
your
the tiredness
colleagues,
in his
et cetera,
voice,
books
right?
that are published have post-dated that Carger paper, correct?
I know, that's nice, but the problem basically is that
This is gonna go one today,
recreate
folks.
is that you would
A
have,
really
if you
good-
want to
really
challenge
interesting
these
witness. Let's put it that
papers,
way.
you're going to have to recreate the experimental situations, and you're going to have to shoot living things. And television aside, and CIAS or whatever, there is no money to do research because people don't really, most politicians don't care about forensic pathology. And the other thing is if you try to do these experiments in the United States, you'd run into big problems in medical schools because you have to keep once you purchase the animals, you have to keep them in special areas, cages. You have to have veterinarians.
Objection, Your Honor. This is non-responsive at this point.
Sustained. It's getting way too far. It's becoming a narrative.
Thank you. And the final period at the end of this sentence, Dr. DeMaio, is that when they shot the calves,
Sounds like he's winding
they
down
found
now, so.
the high-velocity backspatter. In other words, the misting-sized spatter traveled a maximum of 4 feet, correct?
I have no way of knowing. I do not have the study. He's asking, is that correct?
Isn't
They
that
found right with the cattle, and then they said if the gas effect, the traveling distance would have been greater if the gas effect had been as strong as in men because of anatomical differences in the cattle. In the cattle, the gunshot wounds did not split the skin, which they would have in man, and open the wound up bigger. In addition, in the cattle, there's a couple of, an inch or two of soft tissue underneath which would have absorbed the gas. So they said that this effect is good for cattle, but for man, it would be even further, and that's when they mentioned the case from Wyman in 1931, where it went 2.5 meters, and their experience when it went 2 meters.
And you're saying not being high-velocity backspatter, not being mist-like spatter, but just backspatter in general, correct?
Backspatter in general.
Thank you, Doctor. You indicated that in regard to the ejection of blood, in one of the documented discussions in the coroner's file, mention was made of the absence of backspatter on the hands of Lana Clarkson. Do you remember that?
No, the presence of.
4 months.
To report.
Sinead has been
Yes,
so awesome in these four months in the
where are
Buzz
you?
Nation. Love you so much. Love it. Sharing the beers. Ask about the wheel.
You're on
Thank you.
page
4
2.
months is unbelievable also.
Page
Let me just
2,
say
the
Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
fourth full paragraph, beginning at the top.
Okay, in regard to the ejection of
Just
blood.
read it to yourself, Doctor, if you wouldn't
yes.
mind.
Yo, Brooklyn.
All right. So you know where I'm at, yes?
Right.
All right.
Brooklyn!
You indicated that in regard to the ejection of blood, in one of the documented discussions in the coroner's file, mention was made of the absence of backspatter on the hands of Miss Clarkson, correct?
Right.
And then you go on to say that you, in fact, did believe that there was backspatter, correct?
It's described by Jamie Wintmoot, and it's visible on that, the jury saw the photograph.
Yes or no?
hand.
You
Yes.
went on to describe that there was a backspatter that you saw.
Yes.
All right. And you said as
Another
to the
4
subject
months.
of backspatter in
BGOG.
general,
Yeah, I feel the love also,
absence
man.
of backspatter is not
Love that.
significant, only its presence.
That's correct.
But Doctor,
Sharing out
that's
the
what my
beers.
question is. Just a few minutes ago, we were talking about Mr. Spector's jacket, and you said the absence of
Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
backspatter was significant.
It's one of the factors that you consider, the absence, and as you pointed out, you have to consider both. In fact, you did say before, you said you should consider both negative and positive. And the thing is that she has backspatter, and he doesn't have it.
It's been spicy today, Brooklyn. This one's been pretty good.
So you have to weigh whether it's significant or not.
Okay, I've gotten into it pretty hot and
Didn't have it on his
heavy.
coat?
Had to ring the bell a few
Did not have
times.
it, on his sleeve, excuse me. And he had about 15 fairly large, non-mist-like spots on his left front.
You're sure about the sleeves?
I think he had one on the something on the edge, one blood spot on the edge.
And
But
nothing
he
else
didn't
on the
have
sleeves?
on the sleeves. No, he did not.
Nothing else?
No.
You're sure about that?
Yes.
On that note, we have
Sure
arrived
about
at
that?
the time to take our recess. Ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind the admonition.
You sure about
We
that?
will resume at 9:30. Thank
Let's
you,
see where we're
Dr.
going
Return at
next.
9:30 tomorrow.
Dr. DeMaio, part 6. We're not done. We're not done. The next episode will start with this, which is going to be a hefty one. 1 hour and 41 minutes, part 6. Dr. Vincent DeMaio continues his testimony, and I'm guessing it'll be with Alan Jackson, folks. Wow. What a morning here on Murder Church. Thank you all so much for coming through here. We had a Will Spin, which was amazing. Some new members coming through. Any new members, go and check out the video section. You're going to enjoy it. There's a lot of content, but a brand new one. Me and Dan going to a what I'm calling a beer fest. It was an Oktoberfest, but in November. The hurricane messed it up in October, but it was pretty sweet. It was cool. We did some cool stuff. At the end of the video, we go to a cigar lounge, which is pretty fancy. It's cool. You think you guys will enjoy it. But again, got to be a member to check it out. Next time you will see me will be in about an hour and a half on another channel. Mo in the Deep End is going to be hanging out with me, or I'm going to be hanging out with her rather on her channel. I'm excited to come over. The Buzz Nation hopefully come over and support. The show is also going to be looking at the Susan Smith parole hearing that happened this last week, which is a crazy freaking case that I was unfamiliar with until this week when it started going viral again. And I looked into it and holy fucking shit. But yeah, it's calling it a roast of Susan Smith parole hearing. Come over and check that out. I'll put the link. Actually, I'm going to be sending everybody as soon as this ends to that. So you don't even have to do anything. Once you get over there, hit the like and let Mo know that I sent you there. Other than that, Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we will probably be doing another Courtney Clinny trial. Going to get another show together for that, and we're going to continue down that road. Got a couple of trials going on right now, which is cool. And the Phil Spector trial, of course, will return. Unless it returns sooner, it will be next Sunday morning, 9 a.m., per the usual. And everyone, holy shit. Yeah, today was freaking spicy. Today did not stop. Ember, good morning, coming in. Today was a spicy one, Ember, if you go back on the replay crew. Okay, here we go. Sinead, I've sign language training in the AM, Steve. I'll make sure to wear the Kool-Aid tee. I'm sure it will generate a lot of questions. Yes, let them know that you're a part of the church and part of the cult. Wink, wink. Nobody needs to know that.
Son of a bitch!
I didn't hear it. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
I didn't hear nothing. I didn't hear nothing. So yeah, come over in a few, hang out, and yeah, we'll do the damn thing. We'll keep doing. Oh yeah, also Wrestle Plunge, my wrestling channel, the second channel that I have, video that I put a lot of work into over the last 2 weeks. It's a new story. It's a new backstage story. I know, it's a weird genre to jump from true crime into wrestling, and I get it. If you don't dig it, if you like wrestling, you'll probably enjoy it. But I do always say this to folks. Like the last video I did would be a great introduction. It's Saddam Hussein threatening to murder Andre the Giant from 1972 in Iraq at a show. It's an unbelievable story that you have to hear to believe, right? So that's the stories that I tell on that channel. It's a docu-style. Again, it's an actual legit YouTube style edited video. So yeah, go check that out. Again, I put a lot of work into those, but it's a backstage, I tell a lot of the backstage wild real life type stuff, the fights that is happening. It's a lot of drama based stuff. So hopefully maybe you dig it. Maybe you dig it. I don't know. Disney nerd Amanda, thank you so much for hanging out. 16 months. Holy shit. Wow. Thanks, Steve, for always being so awesome. That's crazy. Holy shit. 16 months. That's some G-level shit. My God, that is unbelievable. Love to see it. Love to see it. All right, guys, please come back by, all day long. It's an unusual day. We're going to be doing the damn thing. And you're going over to Mo's stream right now. Have a great Sunday.